en Pennenbuisje.
Welcome, dear listeners, to the Kings and Conquerors Age of Empires 2 podcast, a podcast where you are the kings and queens and we conquer different topics.
My name is Kirst, and my co-host is...
Pennenbuisje. Basically, we're two Belgian Age of Empires 2 players, enthusiasts, lovers, who took on the challenge of this podcast as a project for 2023. Last month, we released our first proper episode after doing some trials. And, well, so far, we've had over 400 listeners for that episode, the January one.
Thank you very much, everybody that listened.
It's way more than we expected. We expected maybe 4.
Including our parents and...
Yeah. So we're quite happy with the reach of the podcast and all the responses that we've gotten.
Mm-hmm.
We've also gotten a lot of feedback, which we will all try to include.
Mm-hmm.
One of the most, recurring pointers was that people want to know a little bit more about us, but we want to include that maybe in a dedicated episode a bit later. Right now, it feels a bit weird to talk about ourselves just from the get-go.
Exactly.
We want to talk some Age of Empires first, and if we have some listeners, then later on we want to talk more about ourselves. And of course, you will get to know us during the episode. So
yes,
yeah.
I think the synopsis of this podcast is that we are very enthusiastic, passionate about Age of Empires.
Yes.
Don't always have the time to play as much, at least me. So the next best thing instead of playing, of course, is talking about it.
Yeah.
And I didn't find any. I love podcasts in general. Didn't find anything exactly like this. So I just decided that we too should make it. So we're trying to make something that we would like to listen to.
Yeah. And for me, it's actually, this project proves to be a very big relief, because it was no longer possible for me to validate all the time I invested into looking at Age of Empire things without questioning my life choices. So I thought, well, maybe I need to do something creative, productive with this. It's not a hobby to just keep on viewing all this content, this dark hole, which sucks me up. So yeah, I'm quite happy that I have some way to do something with all this time invested into this beautiful game.
Okay, this is your channel to validate your hobby, basically. Like it's
my
not...
hobby, my addiction.
It's for the podcast. It's for the podcast. I'm doing this.
It's not an addiction. It's a hobby. I have a podcast. I'm doing research.
Yeah, sorry. I really need to watch this tournament. It's for research.
Yeah. And also just for myself, because I was questioning myself a lot when I thought, like, how many hours have I watched this game and how many hours have I played it? Not nearly as much, but still, yeah, if you add it all up, it's like, where does all this time go to? Well, now I have something, I hope.
That would be an interesting calculation, no? Time spent playing versus time spent doing other things in Age of Empires, like watching it or thinking about it.
I think for both of us, it's like way less playtime in comparison, no? To all the other time invested to the game.
Definitely recently with the family enlargement and all that, it's a lot more difficult to find time. At least time where I'm not falling asleep to play.
Probably for most people, that's the case, no?
Yeah, it could be. We could make an episode about that. Yeah, how to be a dad.
Yeah, that's already a nice topic.
Yeah, being a dad in Age of Empires.
The role of Age of Empires for 30-year-old
or
man-child
or mother. We need to be inclusive.
Or mother. Yes. Actually, 10% of our listeners is female.
Ah, that's cool.
I was a bit surprised, actually.
No, I'm sure we can crank those numbers up, no?
Yeah, probably. I'm still trying to get my partner invested into it, but it's a tough challenge for me.
Yeah, sometimes it's best to have separate hobbies.
Probably.
So that's a bit of a rambling intro.
We did talk a bit about ourselves now, so that's already good.
Yes, that's it from the checklist.
Um,
So this episode, you can expect our recurring segments, being the notable news, where we'll give you an update on what's been happening over the last month.
Yeah.
Into the talk of the show. This show will be about cheating in Age of Empires, the different facets of cheating, as you will find out. And we'll end with our trusty Civ of the Month segment. And I think we're going to keep it a secret, right?
Yeah, that was one of the pointers we've gotten from Lil Trouble herself. She said keep it a secret, so we're going to do it this episode. If you're too curious, you can probably just click it, but if not, you will get that information at the end of this episode.
Indeed. So that leaves us the notable news. I guess let's get started on our first segment.
Notable news.
This is Notable News, the first segment of our podcast. In this segment, we discuss the latest news in the Age of Empires 2 community, and we selected all the most important things for you. Kirst, did you play a lot of Age of Empires now in January?
January is always a tricky month. I mean, between New Year's things and being sick a lot, I haven't had that much time to play, to be honest. But I did sneak in a couple of games in between.
And did you notice all the drama about the mods from the Upside Down event?
Honestly, I have no idea. Like, I know each time I play, if it's been a while, I always check if my mods are not there anymore. You know, if they're, I have to turn them back on again.
It's always the case that all of your mods are turned off and you need to reactivate them. Normally you have like the installed mods and then you can browse mods. But after the Upside Down event, almost everybody, a lot of their installed mods were gone. They needed to reinstall them. Some mods were activated, which were like from events or something, and they were also missing. The worst thing about it was if you closed the game and you started the game again, the mods were gone again. So it was something that it was a complete mess to get your mods fully fixed. You needed to check it every time you started the game.
Oof.
And then a hotfix game, of course, but there was some complaining.
The only thing I noticed is indeed when you go to the mods, the game, the workstation, you cannot find all the mods by just scrolling. Like, you need to really type the name of the mod and then it pops up. I don't know if that's something that was already there, but that was just one thing I noticed. I don't know if that has anything to do with this.
Maybe. I'm not so sure. Most mods, I just find out about them and then I check them and I type them in anyway. So, but usually I had like a good overview of all my installed mods, and then it's already, in my opinion, a bad system that you need to prioritize your mods by clicking them up. I don't know if there's an easier way, but you can just drag them or put them to the top. If you want a mod to be on the top of the list, you need to press the move upwards and like press, and it moves one spot each time. And then I have like my main mods to be the first mods I see, and the other mods are more down below. That's only a problem if you have a lot of mods, and I do have a lot of mods.
Yeah, I think you have too many mods. I think you have too many.
But I don't activate them all the time. But I have all these mods like the Penguin Knights and the Snowman Man-at-Arms, and yeah, I have all those things installed. So
I do think it's a 90s software, you know? So
yeah,
we just didn't have the functionality back then. The technology was lacking.
And just in general, Age of Empires doesn't have the best interface and like menu system, but
we still love it nonetheless.
Yeah. So that's a bit the patches. It wasn't that big in January, just a little thing going on. Also, again, new avatars and new icons. I like the icons for this event, but it's a minor thing always.
Last episode, you said to our listeners that they should watch the start of the new T90 Titans League, moving into the tournaments. So this month it has officially started, right?
Yes.
Anything notable you want to share that you've seen?
Yes, there's a lot of interesting things. So now January, it's the group stage, which I've watched. The finals and the later, those will be for February. So we haven't watched them right now, and we will probably discuss them in our next episode. But the group stages were already very, very entertaining, in my opinion. Did you watch a lot of them?
I watched a few. I don't recall they were best of 3, right? Or were they best of 5?
Mm-hmm.
Best of 3?
Yeah.
I think I watched like Hera and a couple of matches here and there. Now, just to recall for our listeners who might not be aware, the group stage is where you can play other players, and for each win you get some points, but you're not out of the tournament if you lose. You just play a couple of sets, and then at the end, the players that did the best in those can move on to the knockout phase, I guess, and the later stage of the tournament.
And in Titans League, the players who do the worst in the group stages, they risk how do you say?
Degradation.
Degradation to the Gold League, which is just below the Platinum League.
If anybody watches football regularly or other kind of sports with this kind of system, it's a similar idea. Your club can degrade into a lower league or stay in the highest level, let's say.
Yeah. And I really like this because it builds up a bit for hype for the finals. The metas start to develop. You can see which players are doing well. And the biggest thing for me was how well the promoted players actually did.
Okay.
There's been a few upsets. Oh, maybe I should say spoilers for the group stage.
Yeah, of course.
Of course. If you haven't seen the tournament, I'll edit this before we say the rest.
You should just skip the news segment, I guess, if you don't want to get spoiled.
There's been a few upsets from newer players. Running did a very good job in his first match. Draken played amazing, and I would especially suggest you watch his set versus MBL. Like Sith choices, strategy choices, sneaking bases, sneaking eco, wild chaos everywhere.
That sounds like what you get with MBL, right?
Yeah, but Draken, because he's in Clown Legion, that it's more of a clowny player, but he plays the chaos to a top level, I would say. It was crazy set.
Two masters of chaos facing each other.
Yeah, and if you do want to see a clown set from Draken, I would suggest his set against Leary, where the arena game was really one of the best games I've ever seen, and the clown level was immense. Hera Kapoch was very nice, but just a Scandinavia game, I would say.
I think I saw that one because I watched every Hera game.
Yeah?
That was a really interesting one. Yeah.
Sick, right?
Yeah, I remember. Wait, what was it again? With the super fast, like 14, 15?
He went 14 pop.
Yeah, 14. That was it. With the fire
with Mongols. He docked blindly. He didn't scout much. He just snuck his fill. He was sure that there would be a dock from Kapoch. He put his dock. He started with the fires before Kapoch could, but he was against Byzantine, so it's already a risk. He was completely open on the land. He had only 14 fills when he clicked up. Then he still was able to make for a fast castle time.
Yeah, I don't know how he did that.
There was so much potential for punish, but Kapoch was completely reacting. And then in castle, he was able to produce just a few step lancers and to balance out his economy. I've never seen Hera play this greedy and aggressive. And I feel like against Kapoch it worked, but against someone like another top player,
like Leary,
I don't think he could get away with it. Yeah, he would be punished so hard for it, but he wasn't punished, and he kept Kapoch reacting all the time. It took so much confidence, and it was like
a masterclass.
Yeah, but to the resource, I would say it was completely. He had just enough to click up to castle. And then just enough to make a few step lancers. Was so stretched thin, and he still got away with it. And I've seen players play like this, but never Hera. And then a player with Hera's control and potential for controlling the map and the development of the game, it was crazy.
It's a scary thing if he can incorporate this kind of strategy and play into his wheelhouse, his standard.
Yeah. But I think he won't do it in the later stages of the tournament, maybe. And especially now he showed it.
Yeah, I did hear Mumm saying that it was strange he already showed the strategy.
Yeah.
Like he didn't want to keep it for the later rounds. Because that's one of these things with these group games. If you come up with a great strategy, you might want to keep it secret for the finals or the higher levels of the tournament, not necessarily show it too early.
But I think this strategy wasn't great because it's so vulnerable as well. It's very risky. And I think it's something you want to try out here in the earlier stages and then maybe have a secondary strategy. But just because he showed it, people will be... If he picks Mongols again, let's say he plays finals and he picks Mongols on Scandinavia, just because he showed it here against Kapoch, it will already be a mind game.
Yeah, but then the mind games start indeed. Are you doing the same thing?
And if he then just plays solid and docks his own base and goes for just feudal aggression on land or something, or fast castle without the... Yeah, it's just... Oof. Yeah,
okay, so that's, I think, a good update for what's been going on in the Titans League.
I have one more game I wanted to discuss. One that I think is also...
Okay.
It's just one game in a set. It's Ganji versus Jordan, because he's also one of the newer players, Ganji. I know he was like in Rulers of Rome, the clan, and he played a lot of team tournaments. But in 1v1 tournaments, he's not necessarily one of the big names, right?
That's where I know him from.
I'm going to spoil one thing for you.
Sure.
Just not the result of the set, but Ganji facing Jordan. It's Franks versus Hindustanis. Jordan has Hindustanis, Ganji has Franks.
Okay.
Jordan has the lead. He's pushing on Ganji really hard. They're both fully popped. It's like early imp. Ganji is messing traps, but he has no way to really push. He's really stuck on the defensive.
Okay.
But what he does is, they are both fully popped. He deletes like 30 villagers or 40 villagers.
Okay.
Because he has the production queue. It's a risk, because
you can't...
it's not like they stacked a lot of resources. It's like he is going to lose. So what he does is he deletes like a big portion of his eco, so he can mass like it's a one-time thing, like all his resources into army at this moment.
It throws away the future for the short term,
which makes him overwhelm the Hindustanis, which should be stronger units, and then he uses that moment to immediately start trap pushing the base of Jordan. Okay. And Jordan loses his castles, his production buildings. He's swarmed completely. And it's like the minute before he did it, or the second before, it's like, Ganji has lost this. There's no way he's gonna win. He doesn't have the eco, he doesn't have the units, he doesn't have the tech. But what he just does is he deletes his eco and goes for the numbers, just the numbers, to overwhelm and immediately...
So it's like
one of the sickest
40
games
vills to kill 60 enemy vills,
Yeah, in that moment. But no, to kill the enemy army in that moment, which made it so Jordan needed to produce again. But Jordan had less pop space for his military, and then he lost his castles, he lost his town centers, he lost all his protection, and then he went on his eco. So it's just it's like with that move, Ganji showed that he has like the
insight,
the highest level of game insight and tactical strategic view. How he could turn a game where he doesn't have a significant eco lead, a significant army lead, not a tech lead, and just see that was his only moment of opportunity where he could still win the game. He saw it, he did it, and
I think that's quite interesting. I want to see that now. I'm going to look into it.
Yeah, I've already spoiled it, of course.
No, I still want to see the moment, the realization.
Yeah, it's massive. And looking at this as a viewer, normally as a viewer, sometimes you think, why don't you do this or this because you're not managing anything and you're looking at it. I would never have thought of doing that. Never. And it's so effective.
And maybe to clarify, this is something to do when you're at pop limit. Don't go deleting 10 vills in late feudal. It's
like almost a bit like clicking the Flemish Revolution, because you lose your eco to get more military. So you already need to have a little bit of a production queue. But it was, I had never seen this before, actually, in competitive Age of Empires.
I'm curious if this becomes the meta. I want to see once both players doing the same thing, and then just their armies killing each other, and nobody has resources, and just
but I think for Jordan it didn't make sense to do it because he was ahead. He had the better units, he had a better eco, he was the one pushing, Yeah, and of course, because it's Ghost Lake also, it's different because you can't build on the middle of the map.
Yeah.
So once you clear the army, you're immediately pushing forward towards the base of your opponent. While in a more normal map, you have more walls or castles on hills or like buildings to stop the push. The problem here was that Jordan didn't have the time to mass new units. Like he had eco, he had resources, he had all the techs, he just needed to queue some more units, but it didn't come out in time. That was the only, otherwise it wouldn't have worked, but it was like, oh.
Interesting.
Yeah, just masterful play strategically from Ganji, I would say.
Thank you, Pen, for that overview of the games to watch. So moving on, like the group stages will conclude soon, I suppose.
Yeah, I think they're already concluded now. It's the round of 12, and then it will be the quarterfinals,
yeah.
semifinals, finals. And I think the final rounds we will discuss in our next episode. I would say like the later stages of the tournament we'll definitely discuss in the next episode.
And let's hope there are as exciting games as the ones you just described, but I'm sure of it.
The meta for TTL has started to be clear for most maps. We saw some wild and crazy strategies, but I think the top players still have a lot of up their sleeves, which they will show us.
Things to look out for in February.
Yeah.
So beyond the T90 Titans League, we've had the announcement of NAC4, also called Neely's Apartment Cup.
Yes.
So this is a tournament that actually started originally, as the title says, in the apartment of Neely himself. It was always known, it was a smallish tournament, not too many people, always very intimate, but always quite high level, you know. You could see the players watching in the other room, and it just seemed like a kind of nice, chill atmosphere, but quite competitive, and also decent prize pool. So this is the 4th installment, and apparently it is not held in his apartment anymore.
No, it's in the Gamer Legion house.
Oh, that makes sense.
Yeah.
So they didn't change the name because of branding, I guess.
Yeah.
But it's no longer part of, unless Neely lives in the Gamer Legion house. I don't want to make any.
I don't think so, but I think it's better equipped to host such a tournament than Neely's apartment.
Do you know if there's an audience allowed, or?
I don't think so.
Okay.
It's not that big, right?
Okay, so that's the tournament. It's starting in March only.
Yeah. It's just been announced now in January, but it will only start in March. Of course, it's hosted by Neely, but there will be some guest commentators, T90 and Dave. And I think you know this person, Dash.
Yes, Dash, for everybody who's been following League of Legends from before. Dash is quite a famous commentator from there. Interesting, I knew that he was into Age of Empires because he's already featured on T90's stream, I think.
The World Cup, I think he did, or some 2v2 tournament hosted by T90. I think it was World Cup.
Oh, this is super cool. I mean, for me, it's worlds colliding, a bit like seeing Riley Knight in Wololo, because it's also, I know him from other games. He does a lot of other casting for other games. But seeing Dash here, it makes me, excited to see what kind of energy and professionalism he brings. Because you can say what you want, but Dash is the kind of commentator that has been in front of a huge audience, for League of Legends, watched by tens of thousands or more, probably even 100,000.
He's a commentator first, probably, and secondary, he's a lover of the game.
Yeah, I think so. I think he kind of. He watches Age of Empires for fun, so he's coming into it, I think, from that angle,
The tournament will be a 9-villager start, so similar to what we've seen in a few previous tournaments, but they will give you the resources and scouting adjusted to the average 2.5 minutes situation of the random map. So they've done an estimation of what you should have collected of resources and spent on resources, what you should have scouted by 2 minutes and 30 seconds.
Are there any funny other things to note in this tournament?
Yeah, they'll do a show match for this tournament.
Okay, but we know show matches. Show matches are just playing for fun, but nothing special, huh?
But it's a crazy thing. It will be a show match between Neely and T90, who are like coaches or they assemble a team
Okay.
which they draft out of professional Age of Empires 2 players. So they each have 4 players which they select.
Okay.
And these players will play a 1v1 in a co-op.
Wait, 1v1 in a co-op. What does that mean?
That means that they will alternate, like, let's say you start a game, I take over, something like this.
Okay.
But they switch each time an age, like you age up. So you need to select one person for your Dark Age, one for your Feudal, one for your Castle, one for your Imp.
Wait.
And that's like, yeah.
Okay, I have a lot of thoughts. First one, is it an insult if you get chosen for the Dark Age, or is it a compliment?
I think it's very important that you pick a good person for a Dark Age. Someone who plays clean.
Yeah, but I mean, at this stage, they can all do a pretty basic Dark Age, no?
I don't know. Yeah, Dark Age maybe is the most boring age, unless like...
I was just thinking, like, if that or someone gets Feudal, he's just gonna go all in Feudal and never gonna click Castle.
That's also a possibility, because you're like a pro player, and you know, okay, I'll get 15 minutes just to build up the Dark Age. Probably they will talk about strategy, but let's say they don't. And you're just an individual who thinks like, I only have 50 minutes. Oh no, I'm gonna douche. Like, you know what I mean? Like denying all the other players their playtime. Like pick the Viper in Feudal, or nah, he's more of a Castle or Imp player. I think he's the better Imp player. And like if you pick Doubt for Castle for Dark Age, there's the chance that he will Persian douche like he did against Viper in that Warlords game.
Yeah, but I'm thinking of the last show matches from Grand Melee where we had outpost walls and
oh yeah,
craziness. I don't think they reached Imp.
Those games were crazy. Like Vil rushing, and it would be so classic if it's like Doubt and he says, screw my team, I'm just gonna...
Yeah, that's why you put him Imp, just to avoid.
Yeah.
It's also kind of funny to be like, okay, I'm in a really bad situation, losing on all fronts. I'm going to click up and you can handle it. Like, it's not my problem anymore.
It's quite gimmicky, but it's also interesting to think about who would be the strongest in Dark Age, Feudal, Castle, Imp, and then select a player accordingly. And probably they will talk about a strat before they start.
I don't think so. I think they're just too trolly. I don't think there's going to be interest.
There's nothing on the line as well. It's just a show match. Yeah.
So I hope maybe if they put like honor on the line or something, that could motivate them to actually come up with something interesting strategy-wise. Because otherwise, I think it's going to be so not serious.
Well, anyway, that's something to look forward to. If you're not excited about the tournament, then at least be excited about this show match that we'll see.
So indeed, you already mentioned it, but another tournament that was announced this month was the Nations Cup 4. So I grew up, but I basically grew up watching Nations Cup games. So they were organized 3 times between 2014 and 2017.
Mm-hmm.
And they were, to me, like the biggest things ever. They were like the nations, the countries fighting each other. You know, you had like Brazil versus Finland, and you had all these names that some of them are still actively playing and famous, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And to me, that always had this allure of like the world championship type of prestige, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And as you already mentioned, so the sponsoring stopped. So it wasn't organized anymore since 2017. But now it's been community funded. And they managed to get a $10,000 prize pool together. And they started organizing these teams. So the registration is now closed. There's a bunch of teams. They're going to go through a group stage, like we mentioned, with a knockout stage following for the best performing teams. One thing that was quite interesting that I thought was that there were invitations sent.
I don't know if you're a good team, if it's that good that you don't do the group stages. Could it also not be good to get like warmed up? Or is that something that's overrated for these professionals?
I think it's more like, I think things change, no? I mean, 6 years is a long time in any game. They were literally not even playing DE last time. That's how long it's been. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, it's just 4 versus 4 tournaments is a very different type of game than you were used to. Like, trade is very important.
I've never seen a 4v4 tournament, I think.
Yeah, but that's me. I'm used to seeing 4v4s. I mean, I don't know if they're gonna change some of the rules, but you used to have literally 1 or 2 people slinging. You had like people with 100 paladin armies clashing in early imp. You know what I mean? It's like the most like pushed to the max. Like everything is bigger. The whole map is fully built. You have trade routes. You have games that last hours with walling and re-walling and invasions in the trade route and cleaning up the trade and pushing back. And
do you want to see a best of 9 in those settings though?
I don't think they have best of 9s. I believe it's a best of 3 for the play all 3 are the group stage matches. But it doesn't mean that they always go to this stage, but they have the possibility of going into especially I also see that the Black Forest is in the map pool, so it really could be some crazy long games.
Yeah,
I don't know. I just watch it. I think it could really be something up your alley, Pen. Like it's almost strange to me that you haven't been exposed to this high level 4v4 matches, because for me that was the main way I saw competitive play. It was not 1v1 in that era. It was team games like that.
Well, I wasn't part of the community at that time, so yeah.
Yeah, so yeah, it's going to be interesting. Let's watch it together, and I want to hear what you think.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it.
Okay.
Also, at the end of January, by the time this podcast will release, the console version of Age of Empires 2 should have released. Probably, if you hit YouTube right now, you can see the first videos of professional players playing Age of Empires 2 on a console. I'm pretty sure that Dave will do it.
Yeah, he's basically a pro at it, no?
I'm not too sure if they all have consoles, but yeah, chances are it's something they will do.
I did see some more drama, but discussion about it, because there was like some leaked things that said something like a build order button, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, I've seen it, that you can do. You can set your economy to go militia, or you can set your. It's like instead of you have like a rotation wheel, and you can choose how you should divide your eco, and then the AI will do a build order for it.
What?
That's something like this.
Insane.
You choose a strategy, and the AI does it. But I still think it's not going to compete. But yeah, we never know.
Look, if I'm 100% sure I'm going to lose to Viper playing console on the ladder, but look, I'm looking forward to facing Hera on the ladder and my elo, him playing console. It will be an opportunity for us to face these pros.
For you to play on a PC and then to play on the console. Yeah.
We might have an actually somewhat interesting game. I mean, I'm sure I'm gonna lose, but I mean, if they go back through the elo ladder, we might see them.
And I think it's interesting because I think like players like Doubt will probably be better in comparison to the other players if everybody's playing console. To the you know what I mean, like the highly micromanaging, fast-paced players. If it's just a tactical decision you make, they will have the most significant nerf. I would feel.
So you're trying to say I have a chance, or what?
Yes, yeah.
Anywho, okay, so console, we'll see what it gives, if it gets widely adapted, and if it will attract new fans, new players.
To conclude the notable news, there's something in the works right now.
Okay.
Hera is going to organize a LAN event in Argentina. He has started posting that he will organize something there, and just in general it seems like he's out branching a bit for his career. He's also doing the coaching sessions and stuff.
Wait, but a LAN event, you don't mean like...
But I don't think for the pros. I just think a community big LAN event. That's what I think he is doing.
So you arrive with your laptop and you can play all together.
I think something like this, specifically focused on Argentina, because he moved there, and the community for Age of Empires is apparently very big there. People are recognizing him more than they would in Canada.
Really?
Yeah, it's big there, and he's like going to do more for like community things. He's also doing coaching sessions, and he actually wanted to do free coaching sessions to like very, very good players who, in his opinion, have the potential to break through to the top.
Okay.
And he's going to do it free for them because he feels like they have this much potential. I want to help them. So he's
going into the managerial role.
Yeah, but he's like, I think he was like, Age of Empires 4 came out, he went there, he got tired of it, and he was also tired of 2 because there wasn't too much activity there.
Mm-hmm.
He was already at the top level, he didn't feel much challenge anymore. Then he went to League of Legends, now he come back, and I think right now he found what he wanted to do, and it's more of it's the Age of Empires 2 community, and of course a top level play, which we can expect from him, but he's like a guy who always needs a new challenge, I feel, and I think that's his new challenge for himself, is to focus more on others and to helping others within the community.
Oh, that's cool. I did notice on the stream, I think he now has a fixed day where he will actively coach people. It has like a program. He can either watch one of your recorded games or watch you play live. And once I was watching it, and it was a young kid. He was so fun, this kid. He was like maybe a little below my elo, but he knew a lot of what he was doing. I think he was like 12-year-old or something, and he was very good, like really promising. So yeah, I think it's nice to see someone like him helping the lower levels. I also saw that there was some discussion about the price, and I thought it was very reasonable. If you see how much he charges for an hour of gameplay together, I mean, I think it's fine.
Okay, I think that concludes the notable news. And we wanted to add something to our notable news section, which is the not so notable news. Cursed.
So, Pen, what does this contain, this not so notable news?
Well, we think we are also going to, because the notable news is more like an time stamp of the month in which the episode airs. We also want to give you an update about what we are doing and what Age of Empires 2 things we are doing. And, well, we have both given ourselves a challenge, right?
Yes.
I
have
exactly registered in the Wheel of Misfortune tournament, and you have given yourself a different challenge, and it's just your road to 1500 elo, right?
Yes. So before we discuss,
who's going to start with their?
I want to get it off my chest.
Yeah.
So I called it the road to 1500. Thinking this podcast can go on for a long time. Because when I made this challenge, I was maybe mid 1400 something, and since I've really, really become serious and started playing ranked with the goal of getting to 1500. I dropped about 100 elo. So basically my road is looking to be quite long, but that's good because that means that the segment can go on for a longer time.
Yes, that's true. And I just want to add something to our listeners. When I came back to the game like in 2020, Curse was also there, and he played not that often, but he was very, very good, let's say. And I think we've played a lot of games together, and I can count my victories on like one hand, or how do you say it?
Oh, one hand, yeah.
Did I won like 10% of our games?
Yeah, maybe 10%, but we don't play that often.
No, and if I win, it's always like because I am doing so. It's usually because there's something
I forgot.
It's not clean.
Yeah.
It's either chaotic. Like my first win against you was a tower rush, which took you by surprise. Like it's always like in chaos or in things, because if the game goes clean, I always get completely destroyed. And the weird thing is that hasn't really changed. I don't feel like I have more of a chance when I play you, but at this moment in time, I have surpassed you in elo.
Yes, and I don't know what's happening.
You are now a 1330 something player, and I'm a 1340 player. So I'm so proud, but I know that if we were to play, I would lose like 9 out of 10 times. So I am quite sure that it's something of a fluke you have here, or what do you say, a fluke, like the opposite of luck.
Yeah, fluke.
And I'm sure you will be back to 1400 in no time, and I still believe that the road to 1500 is very much possible for you.
Thank you for the confidence. I think I've just been a bit sick, a bit tired, so when I force myself to go play ranked, I get kind of destroyed. But I'm sure I will find my confidence, and I'm happy to report next month that I'm back to 1400. Let's hope for that.
I think, again, if you play 20 ranked games, a few losses won't make that much a difference. If you just play more, I'm quite sure your actual level is at least 1400. So I have faith.
Yeah, we'll see. And what's your not so notable news?
Yeah. I talked about it a previous episode. I was going to register at a casual tournament, the Wheel of Misfortune, in which I was put in a group for all the 1200 to 1400 ELO players.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like they look at your current rank and your max rank, and then they estimate something. And I was the second to lowest of a group of 5 people.
Okay.
I still have one match to play at the time of recording, but let's say it was an experience. It's always good to try out new things. I really love the Civ draft. It's something to learn, but I kind of misjudged the entire thing.
Okay.
Let's say my first match, I had glanced at the maps that I were going to play. The setting is that you draft civs. You can ban some, you can snipe one, you can pick your civs, and then you go play 3 games, play all 3. But it's a map pool of random maps. So you select like a few maps, and then the game selects a random one. And if you've played it, you cancel it out. And there's also map bans. So yeah, and I thought, it's a lot of like hybrid water maps. No, I thought they were more open. That was my first match. I thought they were open. We're just going to look here. But the maps actually were Arabia, Arena, Islands, Nomad, Budapest, Socotra, Hillfort, Kawasan, Sacred Springs, Water Nomad.
Okay. Good mix. Yeah.
So I thought, okay, Kawasan, Nomad, Islands, those things, and also a bit more open. But I had a really bad Civ draft in the first thing. I think I picked Hums, which is very bad on Nomad. It's not good. Well, it could be good, but I didn't have any idea about the top Civs, let's say. And I got completely taken by surprise. Well, long story short, I'm just going to say it was a terrible tournament for me. I've lost my first 3 matches. Okay. Yesterday, I won one against the only player who had a lower rating than me, so I was expected to win.
Hey, it's still good.
And I won 2 games in sets against higher ranked players, but they were both on a map I hate, and I don't understand how I could win it. And it's Water Nomad.
Oh, I hate that map. But you're pretty good at it. Because when we play it, it's always difficult to...
Apparently, I hate that map, but it's the only map in which I've been able to take out some of the higher rated players than me. Yeah.
Map is horrible.
It's my strat is just fast feudal. If needed, I idle fills.
Galleys.
And galleys, yeah. And then only look at the military. And this has success, but I've played some games that I was like, I thought the game was even, and then suddenly I'm not even exaggerating, like 40 knights. When I think it's early castle, we're starting to build DCs, we're going to have, and suddenly I'm flooded by knights, and I'm like, how the hell? I know he was Poles, but still, I didn't understand how it was even possible that he had such a production.
But that's like their privileges, right?
But I still have one more game to play, so maybe I can still win one more. So it's actually 3 losses. In total, I've won 4 games out of the entire tournament.
Are you?
Yeah.
So is it going to end soon? Are you looking at joining other casual tournaments, or?
Well, the tournament is still going to go on, but I don't think I will be included in the next stages, let's say, because my group stage performance isn't good enough. But I would say that it's fun to do. I also didn't prepare a lot. It's not like I had strategies in mind. I didn't even think about most of the maps. Like I got hill forts, and I was playing it for the first time during the tournament, and was like, this map is really strange.
Yeah.
I don't have berries. I need to go out of my... I still don't get that map. I have no clue what to do, but still, but it's actually quite fun. You especially the drafting for a set is something quite unique, which I feel like playing ranked is fun, playing lobby games is fun, but playing like a set with someone and drafting civs for it adds so much level to your games.
I like it too. The only thing I did find annoying is arranging to play.
Yeah, that's terrible.
Like clicking just rank to play is so much easier than finding a moment where you can be both there. And yeah, that's the most tricky thing, no?
Like it's the same for everybody. Everybody has like some time in between 6 in the evening and 9, 10-ish, most people. But then if you have children, that might be a problem. And and that's the most problematic thing, the time zones of people are different. So what's my evening might be your morning or night. And then it's always like, oh, where can we fit it in the schedule? But it's a challenge. But I think if you want to play like something refreshing, it's worth it. But this tournament wasn't my best performance.
Yeah, well, there was the next one, right? I don't think this one was specifically great for you, the settings. So
no, but also not because of the random map. I thought you don't need to prepare as much, and I don't like to prepare. I'm lazy. But the Nomad Wars tournament, I didn't prepare as well, and I had better results there. But because I think the maps just suited me more.
Yeah, exactly.
So yeah, I'll see what's in store. But it's a time investment, so I'm not so sure with the podcast which we're doing right now. If I will jump on the next best thing when I get a chance.
Yeah, all the time you have to watch the T90 Titans League to report to us who is the best games. I think that's also important.
Yeah. Well, okay. I think that concludes the not so notable news.
Indeed.
And we'll keep on giving you listeners some updates with each episode about what we are doing in Age of Empires.
Yeah, indeed. So, concluding our notable news, we go on to our next segment, which is Talk of the Show.
Talk of the Show.
Welcome back, dear listeners, to the Talk of the Show, a segment where we will discuss each episode a thought-provoking topic. This week we'll be discussing cheating, and we will start in what I've dubbed the light zone. So, Pen, do you have any idea what I mean when I say the light zone of cheating?
Minor cheats, maybe, like that's what I would guess. Light, or is it light more luminous?
Yeah, what I had in mind to say the light zone is the cheats that were programmed from the beginning, so they are part of the game made by the developers. I think everybody that started playing Age of Empires as a child remembers using cheat codes, I think, right?
As an essential part of the game, in fact, right? Yeah.
Exactly. Now, I don't know what your memories are of using these cheats. Maybe we should first say what they are, starting with the resource-giving cheat codes. So these are, of course, 4 different ones, one for each resource. And what you do is you type them in the game. You type the words, you click enter, and bam, you get 1,000 of that resource. Funny fact, as a child, I only knew one of these cheats, which was cheese steak jimmies. And that's Jimmy's with an apostrophe S. That's the one that gives 1,000 food, and it's the only one I knew. So I was like typing the most difficult thing that I could think of as a small child, and just getting food, and then using the market to transfer that food into other resources.
Oh, but you already realized that the market was a place where you could sell and buy resources?
I think that was a development, I suppose. I mean, I also realized at one point I could control copy the words. So then that was crazy because, oh my god, the efficiency gain was immense. Did you use any of these resource-giving cheats? Did you know all of them, or?
Oh, but the resources one, it was my economy, basically. I had no idea about, like, keeping villagers alive, booming, all those things were not a part of the game at all. Also, it were like 50 pop games, right? So it was just build some military and also just one military production building
Wait,
and cheat.
was it 50 or was it
Or
60?
I don't know, low. Or
In my head,
75 maybe.
it was 60.
Or something, 50.
No, it definitely wasn't 75. I think it was 60. I don't think it was 50. Anyway.
I didn't look it up. It was very low. So
Mhm.
it's not a booming game. So, but not just because of that, also because I had no idea about how to actually play this game. I just cheated. I played the campaigns and then cheat a bit, build a military building and make some units. And I also had no idea about the costs of units. Like, a knight being that much more expensive than a pikeman, I wouldn't know. I just made every unit, you know? That's what I did. I built cities and I cheated all the time.
Look, were you not more focused on placing your farms beautifully to make a beautiful looking village than actually fighting?
Yeah, certainly. And if I placed farms, it was only for the, for the look of it. Not for food. It was
Oh.
just everything. I remember distinctly putting, well, I'm going too far on this. I'll stop then about my youthful place, but putting my male villagers on wood and mining, and putting the female villagers on berries and farms. I think I did.
Ollie.
Yeah, I really did that. And you could
That's
see
horrible.
whether or not you were making a man or a woman in the queue. It showed you.
Okay.
Because it queued like villager, and you could see the gender already. And then also spearmen at the wall, at the gates, and like I made cities. Like I played a completely different game, and cheats were an essential part of it because if I didn't, well, it just wouldn't be possible to play the city builder I built. You know.
They were fueling your your building projects.
Yeah.
I did notice. So if there's any 6-year-olds listening, you can find them online. But just to recap, we have Robin Hood for gold, Lumberjack for wood, Rock On for stone, and Cheesesteak Jimmy's, as mentioned before, for food. And one interesting aspect is that I didn't know, but in the HD remake, they increased the amount of resources it gives you from 1,000 to 10,000.
I noticed, but I noticed
Yeah.
in DE because I didn't play HD. I just played some Age of Kings and Age of Conquerors, and then now when I got back into the game, I noticed that the cheats were off. That I got way too much resources, which is fine because it just saves you some time copy pasting, right?
You cheated in DE?
Yeah, sure. When I came back,
Really?
you never test something out or something like against the AI or just
No, I tested out against real players.
yeah. Okay.
No, but I understand. I think you can edit in the scenario, no? Just to give you max resources.
But that's more work than just quickly jumping into a post-imp game and cheating. Or like in a quick game and cheating. But I think also when I got back into it, yeah, when I started playing DE, I played the same way as a kid. It just changed quickly, I think.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, going over the list of cheats, there's also another resource cheat that was added in the Forgotten expansion pack. So that's, I guess, when both of us were not really actively playing anymore. And that would help you in your scenario that you just described.
Yeah.
It's just called Ninja Connor, and it gives you 100,000 in each resource.
Oh, that's chill. Yeah.
You only need to do that one if you want to do your scenario testing or whatever.
Yeah.
Okay, so that finalizes the resource cheats.
Mm-hmm.
As we said, critical component of our economy at a young age. There were some other cheats that I remember we also abused sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
One is, for me, very famous, IR winner.
Yeah.
Do you still remember what it does, Ben?
Yeah, you win the scenario, no matter what.
Very good. Very good.
Very straightforward.
Now, I don't know if did we use that on each other every now and then when we were playing each other?
We didn't play each other, right?
I don't
We just
think
played
so.
campaigns, so it was just if you're stuck in a mission and you try it again and it seems like it's not working out again, you just want to skip the mission, you know? And you want to play campaigns, and then sometimes you would get back to a difficult mission, but you wouldn't be like stuck and grinding a mission if it doesn't work out the first time. I would just cheat. That's yeah.
I want to skip to the end of this story.
Yeah, like too difficult. Whoop. Next one.
The next cheat is also quite interesting. It's resign, and it just gives you an instant loss. I'm not sure why this was necessary as a cheat. You could just, surrender, I guess.
Yeah, I also don't get it.
Actually, I do get it, but we'll discuss it after this. I will tell you why this is in the game.
Oh.
The next one I think is quite interesting. I have some memories of this one. It's called Aegis. Pen, you remember what it did?
Aegis was everything is instant,
Yeah, exactly.
right?
All the buildings are instant, all the unit production.
A unit creation as well,
Exactly.
but also for the enemy.
Yeah, exactly.
Not just for you. Yeah.
That was the thing.
Yeah.
That was the difficulty, no?
Yeah. So that's just a fun mode, actually. It's not really.
It basically makes the game impossible, no? I remember the AI would spam way faster than I could. No?
No, what you did was you cheat for resources early game.
Mm-hmm.
Then you press Aegis, then you build your buildings you want to build, and then you press Aegis again. And if you do it again, it's off. It's like a mode you switch off, and you've built all the things you wanted to build instantly using your cheat for resources, and then you turn the mode off, and then you have a lot of buildings and they don't. That's how you need to know how to cheat, Kirst. It's important.
I'm talking to an expert, I noticed.
Yeah. I have a lot of memory about cheating the AI. Yeah.
Okay, well, good to know. Good to know. So, audience, remember, Aegis can be turned off again by retyping it. The next one, I'm going to put it together with another one. For me, they are the most essential cheats, the ones I would use all the time. And they are Marco and Polo. Marco would give you the full map, but everything was still in shadow. And Polo would reveal everything.
Yeah.
I think I started each scenario against the AI with Marco Polo, just to see what was going on. Did you do something similar, or?
I think I never played without it. Yeah, because I didn't scout, and also, but I had no idea about unit counters, so it wasn't even that I used my vision for anything. It was just whatever was in the blackness of the map, I would get scared of. So I needed to know that there was no enemy army there. Just that. And there was no strategic element at all to it, but I couldn't play without it because I wouldn't dare venture into the darkness of the map, you know.
It made it possible to play the game, basically.
Yeah. Here be monsters. Yeah.
I wonder if at that moment you could already toggle vision settings, and we just didn't know.
You mean like only military units, those things?
No. I mean like when you start the skirmish, you could just click full vision, like we could do now.
Yeah. Maybe you could.
Oh, I don't know. Yeah, probably. I actually have no idea.
If you could, then why would you be able to cheat?
We'll come back to that after this segment. I will tell you. It will all become clear.
Mm-hmm.
The next two we'll quickly go over because I never used them. You could type torpedo and then a number of an opponent, and it would basically eliminate that opponent. And Black Death would eliminate all opponents, which apparently is somehow different than IR Winner. I'm not really sure, but okay. Did you ever use Natural Wonders? Control animals?
No, I didn't know that was a thing in Age of Empires 2. I know it was in the Gaia cheat code in Age of Empires 1.
Mm-hmm.
And I know the cheat, and I've played with it as, the way I played with everything with cheats. But I never knew this cheat code for Age of Empires 2. So I didn't know you could do this.
Yeah, well, apparently it could lead to some interesting scenarios, that we used to make. If you could control animals, I could think of some interesting
you could bull rush.
uses. Wolf rush.
Lion rush. Yeah, instead of sending your spearmen through the middle, you could just select all the lions in the middle of Gold Rush and directly send them to the enemy. Yeah.
Well, the good thing is, though, I don't think elephants were in the game already, because that would be terrifying if you could control elephants.
I have no idea. I remember the boar being there and the wolf.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
You could turkey rush someone.
You could.
Okay, talking about units, I think for me, We'll skip the ones I don't know and go directly to the main one. How do you turn this on? Which summons the...
Cobra car.
Indeed. Beautiful Cobra car. Very realistic unit in the medieval setting. Do you have any memories of using Cobra cars?
Yeah, they had like a quick fire rate and like a more like a gun. You know, it was like bam, 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 bam.
And they were opening their doors each time they shoot.
Yeah, right.
Like
It were like wings or something. Yeah.
They were frantically opening and closing their doors, like trying to fly or something.
I liked the Cobra car, but it wasn't as cool as I'm going to refer to Age of Empires 1 again, because for me, those games are linked, as the Big Daddy car you had in Age of Empires 1, which had a bazooka, which and blew up like entire zones at once. Yeah.
The real question is, how long did that take to develop? And why
those
was
units? Yeah. Yeah, I think not too hard. If once they have, they had to make the icons, of course, but it's just maxing some stats and seeing what happens. I think they were just max speed, maybe. To see what the max. Yeah.
And then the last one I still remember using was Furious the Monkey Boy, which summoned a little, very strong monkey.
Mm-hmm.
The thing I liked with the monkey was, actually, wait, let's step back one second. So I do remember sometimes when we used to play a LAN game, like very rarely we did, and I remember sometimes, like when you're in a losing position, the game devolved into a Cobra car spam.
Yeah.
Where we just started destroying each other with Cobra cars. And I did like, actually, the Monkey Boy for that, because it was way less obvious that it was wrecking your economy. So it was more stealthy, like killing vills, while the Cobra car is way too flashy. I don't know if you ever used these cheats against a fellow human player.
I don't think I've ever cheated against a human player. If we've played LAN, did we more likely play against the AI together? I think we probably played each other like once or twice, but I don't think, like, I would have been tempted to just press IR winner. And then, but it's you can't really do it if you play like this, you know? It's and also you can wreck each other's economy. What does it matter? You both can cheat your way to economy, and all you need is one town center, so you can keep Control Ving. How do you turn this on?
Right, so, because they do spawn in the town center. Killing your opponent's town centers make it they can't make any more Cobra cars.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, well.
So it's a wild game like this. So I think I don't have much memory. I think we did play, because I remember you being with a laptop or something. I think you had a laptop and you came to my place, and then we must have played together.
I do remember.
I think if we did fight each other, the game would not have been a very clean one or a very proper. Yeah, I don't see how it would go.
We would definitely fight dirty.
Yeah, I think we probably played the AI.
Things what I remember is not necessarily setting up games, at least not playing against you, but mainly struggling with the LAN. Like in theory, it was so simple to connect to computers over the local area network to play, but in practice, it was always buggy and not working, and very annoying. Anyway, so let's move on. We've discussed all the cheat codes. We gave a quick summary.
Oh, wait.
Yeah?
Actually, in the E, they added new cheat codes, and I wanted to just mention that.
Oh, okay.
Did you know?
No.
There's like a few cheats where they have like these events in the E sometimes, and there have been cheats that you can unlock by getting an achievement, like getting this many units or getting this dex, and it unlocks a few. So there's a few, and I think I'm just going to go over a few. Like sharing is caring was one I thought was very interesting. What this does is every resource a player is gathering goes to the entire team.
What?
So for everyone. Yeah, everything your team is gathering from resources is added to everybody.
What? I never knew about this.
Well, those are new cheats, like newly developed.
Okay.
Grab your pitchforks. Do you have any idea what this will do?
Like Flemish Revolution style?
Yeah, all the villagers turn into Flemish militia. And then chameleon transforms all camel units into flaming camels.
That's actually an actively bad cheat to use.
Yeah, but it's all meme stuff, you know? It's like another cheat is my CPU can handle it. That turns all players' population cap to 1,000. Yeah, so just ensuring the game will crash, you know? It's just whose computer crashes first. Tech Tech 1, 2, 3. That's a cheat. And it's basically like the mod we had.
Okay.
Oh no, it's not a mod. It makes technologies free. But it is one to combine with the next cheat, which is going above and beyond. And this cheat lets you research the same technology up to 256 times.
Oh.
So making technology free and making you able to research it a lot. It's just game crashing things, these new cheats that they added to the game. Well, just wanted to add those to the list.
Yeah. I love it. Thank you for enlightening us. And specifically about that last cheat with the multiple tags, we will discuss that in our next segment of this topic. I will come back to that. So first, to finish off our anecdotes, I was wondering as a child, I remember starting only knowing cheesesteak jimmies.
Yeah.
And then slowly somehow figuring out other cheats. But how did we find out about them? Do you know?
I don't know if it was the same case for you, but at my school, everybody was playing Age of Empires. Or not everybody, but everybody who is like the same guys who had the Game Boy and who are playing on the computer, they were all playing Age of Empires. You also had like the sport, different kind of kids.
Ooh, weird kids.
But a lot of kids were playing Age of Empires. Yeah, all the nerds, all the proper Head in the Cloud boys, you are all playing Age of Empires. And I think we just shared them. And some guys had bigger brothers who were a bit older because I was quite young when I was playing this. So I could, I didn't understand English. I just learned these cheat codes by heart. And it was just a shared thing. It was like you meet somebody, they say, "Oh, do you know this cheat?" "Oh, no." And then you gather them, you know?
I think you're right, because I also have a memory of visiting friends of my parents in Holland. And I remember there were two boys about my age, and they were playing Age of Empires. And I remember the moment when I said, "You know, there's cheats in these games, right?" And they looked at me with these big eyes, and they were like, "No way, you're lying." And I, like a pro, type cheese steak jimmies, enter, and bam, 1,000 food, and they went crazy. Then I think I showed them Cobra Car, and I was basically a god.
Yeah.
So yeah, I also have memories of like a bunch of kids on the couch with their Game Boys sharing like random Pokemon facts and this kind of. It's how information used to spread, right?
Yeah, you would talk about because we all played all these things, you know, Pokemon, Age of Empires, and we just shared a lot of things because like it's basically like a Reddit forum, but it didn't exist. And also, I know I had good internet at a later time. So by the time I had proper internet, I didn't play Age of Empires anymore. So I never was in a I discovered the internet later. Yeah.
So to end this part of the topic, we already mentioned a couple of times like the purpose of some of these cheats, right?
Yeah.
Actually, I found a little snippet that describes why they are added. Okay. So basically, the people making the game, they need to test out a lot of situations, right? So if they would play the game properly, they said they might be able to test the end game, for example, 4 times in an hour, you know? But if you could cheat, you could do way more. So those cheats were actually added in the development process, you know, to allow the testers to quickly be able to get to the units to test. And like you said, maybe before the Cobra Car at max speed, maybe it was used to, I don't know, test out the unit, or I don't know what. The same with, for example, the Fog of War, like Marco Polo, was very essential in looking at how the AI was actually moving and controlling his eco for the developers, right? So actually, there was a tradition at that moment in time that all these kind of cheats that were basically used to test the game were left in the game when it was launched. So that's actually the reason why a lot of these cheats were in the original game.
Yeah.
I think with the DE, they're more going for a meme, but voilà. So that explains IGs, you know what I mean? The resource cheats, Marco Polo, these kind of things.
And I think it added to the success of this game, if I'm honest.
Mm.
I think everybody who remembers Age of Empires remembers the cheating and the fun and the wild stuff you had. It added to the liberty of playing for a lot of people.
Mm.
You know, it gives you can play this game as a city builder. You just need to use cheats. That's the thing. You could do all these wild things, and for a lot of people, that's part of the fun. You know,
Mm-hmm.
like breaking out of the streamlined or regulated playing field, just going wild.
Yeah, and I think we can conclude that they indeed add a lot of fun. In that sense, they are a very good addition to the game.
Yeah, especially when we were kids, I feel.
Well,
Right.
apparently you're still cheating in DE, so
But I've tried some things out. Yeah, we'll get to it later.
okay. So moving on from the light zone, so which are the developer-made cheats, we go into what I dubbed the gray zone. Okay, so
Mhm.
I'm not even sure we could consider them cheats. This is part of the discussion. But what I'm talking about are the mods that you can find in the Steam Workshop.
Yeah.
So mods, what are they? They are basically changes that players, users, programmed and made that adapt certain elements of the game. I think all of them are mainly visual, so you can change how things look from your starting screen to elements within the game. But before we go into that, maybe Pen, you are one of these people that use mods.
Yeah.
Right?
So do you, I hope. I would assume. Yeah.
Yeah, I know. I'm just trying to paint you like a bad person. Okay, anyway. So can you go over your mods that you are using and why you like them?
If I go over why I like them, because there's a few questionable ones in there. Okay, I'll just go over them. So first one is small trees, which is self-explanatory. Your trees get smaller, so it's easier to see holes in your walls, in your base. It just makes the game cleaner, I feel.
Mm-hmm.
Then I have the Zedness
Wait, before you move
improve.
on, this cheat is dangerous in the fact that it's a bit like drugs. Once you go on small trees, you cannot play without. So it's you know what I mean? It's a drug, and an essential one at that.
Yeah. So I have the small trees, then the Zedness improved grid mod. I have no embers. Do you know what this one does? I'm just gonna go.
No embers. No clue, no.
So in the DE, you have like these embers flying around your screen, and they always avoid your mouse. It's like a mini game you can play, trying to touch the embers with your mouse. The embers will always go around your mouse, but it actually adds a lot of processing to the game. And in my feel, it has less chance of like it loads faster. And also sometimes when I clicked something and the game was loading, it was like I couldn't click much when I had a game loading. I couldn't do much. Yeah,
you block the game, right?
Yeah.
If you click,
Yeah.
I've had that a couple of times.
With the no embers, I have far less issues with this, so it just makes it smoother.
Oh, I'm getting that mod. That sounds really good.
Then I have the monk unit conversion effects. I have the gunpowder tracer effects. Those are all official mods, you know, from them you can unlock with an event.
Okay.
The larger onager projectiles, fish borders, bigger and eye-catching relics, the hyper-random maps, which are awesome. No intro, so the game just goes straight to the menu. Waterloo sound for monks, and Age of Empires 2 DE priests.
Oh.
Those are my current active mods.
So your priests look like the old model priests.
Yeah. And they sound like the old. My monks are priests from the E, basically, because of the nostalgia factor. That's just mainly that. That's the only thing it
From the
does.
E, you mean from Age of Empires 1?
Yeah, from
No.
Age of Empires 1. But from the DE
Okay.
version, the old models are, yeah.
Well, I have to say, I'm interested in that no members and no intro mod. Those sound great.
Those are just, beneficial to the processing, I think. I like smoothness.
Yeah, but so I described mods as mainly visual, but those are not at all visual, right?
No. Well, they skip things in the game that just, add to your loading time and add to the possibility of crashes.
Yeah. Now, before, like, maybe you can discuss a couple of more mods that you don't use, and maybe ask why you don't use them.
So I went over my mods. Maybe do you use any of these mods?
I don't use any interesting mods. No, I don't use any of these mods. But let's just add the mods that are also popular, and then we'll discuss mods in general. Okay?
Yeah.
So your list is very interesting of mods. I like a lot of them. One that's also quite popular is useless plant remover.
Mm-hmm.
So these are all the non-cuttable plants, and they even make a big, big selling point about even the cactus is removed, which I thought was quite funny. I don't know if that bothers you at all in game, these useless plants.
No.
No.
It may be for a new player or something, but I feel like after a few games, you know which trees are trees, and you know which. And also, if you have a proper grid mod, I don't know. Doesn't a tree have a different border or something? No, it doesn't. Probably.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
No, I think it fills the tile.
Yeah, and to me, they can be added in the game. I don't like it the game to become too clean.
The next mod is for the edgy teenagers. It's called Crimson. It's called Crimson Blood. I think it just adds a huge blood pile.
I've used it.
You use it?
I've played with it for a while. I don't use it anymore, but I've played for it for a year or something. And the reason for it was I was too late at reacting to things, so I get an attack notification, but I didn't have the attention to go look for it. And then what it does is it adds a lot of blood, but the blood also doesn't go away. It stays there for a long time. So you could see where there's been fighting, especially in team games. You could see like, oh, there's a lot of dead units here on this hill. Probably army around there.
Wait, and you could see so that through the fog, or what?
Yeah. You can see dead units. You can see, because I saw the units when they die. I can see their corpse. You know, it's from an ally or from myself. You can see the blood through the fog. But it's actually a way of gathering information which you shouldn't be able to see at the time when you're looking at it, because it shows you where the battle has been fought. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I understand. I think even though we haven't finished talking about all the different mods, this is maybe a good jumping off point to talk about why we include these mods in the gray zone. Because exactly what you just said, the Crimson Blood mod gives you a benefit that someone who doesn't have the mod is, maybe he's still able to get it if he just looks, but it's going to be more difficult, right?
It just, basically it's more blood, so you could say it's purely visual, but it gives you a longer time to see where action has been, so you don't need to look everywhere at once. You have more. So it adds a benefit if you know how to use, if you use it for this, you know, which I did, but now I've removed it.
I'm surprised you don't use the advanced idle pointer.
I don't see the use. I think it's ugly.
It is ugly.
Those are the exclamation marks on your villas, right? Ugh. No. I don't like it.
But I mean, I guess that you keep relatively the graphics relatively intact with your mods. But I've seen some crazy changes to units. Like I remember this kid that had, instead of knights, I think they were riding like polar bears or something. They looked completely weird.
And penguins on a polar bear, or black knights. And I have used a lot of mods. Right now I don't have too much because of the issues we've had, and I just reinstalled the ones I really like. But with all the events you have, you gather some weird like skin mods, and I've used a lot of skin mods. It's just, they go after a while they're just stale, you know?
You want to go back.
You go back to the ones that really
back to
matter.
the basic, the art, the intention of the artists.
The only one I never want to lose is the AoE DE, like the Age of Empires 1 Priest and Wololo sound.
Talking about Crimson Blood, to help you see where the battle is, there's also a mod called Monster Boar. What it does is basically makes boars gigantic. Like, they look very scary, but
it's very ridiculous.
But it helps when you're scouting. I mean, they don't show it through the fog. That would be cheating. But when you've passed an area, you quickly go over it, you will definitely notice the boar. You know what I mean? Even if he's behind some trees or something. Which is another thing that gives an advantage. But the main one that I think was quite interesting was before there was a mod that would allow you to see the range of TCs and towers. Okay? So there was a mod that show you with a circle how far a TC or a tower could shoot. And you could use that to avoid, getting into range with your army. They've since added this into the base game.
Yeah.
Okay. So they you can actually go into your settings and enable this option. But the new version of it is even more powerful because the old version would give you 3 circles. One, for example, without fletching, one with fletching, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But it wouldn't indicate if they already had fletching or not.
Wasn't there like one, weren't there like thin lines and one line was a bit thicker? The one which he was at?
You
was
think
it
so?
like this?
I'm not
I think
sure.
it also showed.
Really? Oh,
I'm not so sure it didn't.
Oh, okay. Well, then I'm not 100% about. But in any case, the thing that I find interesting is, okay, it's a visual change, but it has a big impact on the gameplay, right?
Yeah.
You play as most people, I think, with this option enabled.
Yeah, since it's been added to the game, I feel like you can't. Well, it's playing with a handicap if you like a negative handicap if you don't play with it, but it's not necessarily a good thing.
Yeah, I also believe that what's interesting. Before it was added to the base game and basically made official, there's a poll that I found from 2 years ago where they asked the community if this range mod, if they consider it cheating. And if you do you know the result of that poll? What would you think?
What I think about it, or what I think the community thinks about it?
Yeah, do you think the community would have a majority saying it's cheating or a majority saying it's not cheating?
I think the majority will probably say it's not cheating because it's official, and we have a lot of mods that are.
No, yeah, but this is before it was official. The poll was taken.
I'm not sure. I will just say my personal opinion. It's cheating. That's what
Then I'm afraid you're in the minority, because the majority said it's not cheating, but if you scroll down, you can see it. It's very close.
Oh yeah, it's only 1,000 people that responded.
Yeah,
to the. So 670 said no, and 460 said yes. It's cheating.
Yeah. So there's a majority that said no, it's not cheating, but still a significant portion of this population that small group that voted did think it was cheating, right? But yeah, now it's official, so it's officially not cheating, I guess.
Yeah. And maybe we should explain why you could consider it cheating. Basically, it's of course true that if you play this game a lot and you would be able to count the tiles, because there's also like the grid mods, you would also know how far a tower ranges. And I get that for new players, you don't like it to misjudge these situations. So you want to know, if I build a tower here, what will be ranged by it, and counting it just slows down the game. After a while, you could get just like a gut feeling for it, but I get this. But what's wrong about this is that when somebody researches fletching or arch or like ranger upgrades, you will see the indicator of the tower expanding. So in a normal game where you're not so sure how it will develop, so you have the feudal stages, maybe a tower is being built, and then it goes to castle, and you're both not so sure about what your enemy is doing. If you see the range is expanding, you know they are getting the ranged upgrades, you know they're going for archery units. And that's just things that well, normally you could click on enemy units, but that takes some of your time, some of your also like the focus of you to check for it or to scout for it.
Mhm.
And now you can just see those things automatically. And it gives you information which you otherwise wouldn't get. And I think that's if you're playing against someone who doesn't have it, it's no longer a visual mod anymore.
Exactly. I also think that if you have two people of similar elo playing a ranked game against each other, but one has all the good mods installed, don't you feel like that is such an advantage? I mean, do you think, I suppose like this, do you think all of those advantages, I'm talking small trees, range indicators, whatever you want, whatever is useful,
Yeah.
do you think that will have a measurable impact on who will win that game? Or you think it's so minor that wouldn't affect it if they have the same skill?
It has an impact because it impacts not necessarily every game, but like if you have a game and you don't find your boar immediately and you're looking for it, so that's like 10 seconds where you're looking for your boar, but you have the mod so you find it easily. Okay, then you also have the tree mod, and it's possible that otherwise you could have missed a wall. It's like all these things do very small things, but if you have a lot of them and your opponent has none, that just gives you like a handicap towards the game. It's they all add together, and it's a reskin of a unit. No one cares about that. That doesn't matter. But yeah, it's the other things that add up.
Yeah, I guess it's almost like they should make it official, like they did with the tower range. Like that, it would be. I mean, the difficulty, of course, is what's the difference between going to your settings, clicking a box, or going to the Steam Workshop and installing something. Like, if you don't know it exists, you're not gonna use it,
Yeah, but I feel like Age of Empires also makes it quite easy. You have you can download mods from within the game. If you're not really someone who's used to modding and everything, this is quite an easy way to get your mods.
Yeah, I know, but like, you need to know what to look for, right? I mean, unless you take the time to go over each mod and...
Yeah, of course, yeah. To know it exists. And probably a lot of players will only start getting these mods once they start becoming competitive, once they look at some guy and they say, like, if you want to improve at the game, I would say these mods will also help you, at least the ones to get a clear vision. The ones I said, like fish borders, sometimes if fish doesn't jump out of the water, you haven't seen them, but this gives them a border always. So oh, there's fish here. That's a small cheat, let's say. But it gives you information which you otherwise wouldn't have. The small trees makes the game far cleaner to spot everything. The grid mod makes it far cleaner. Like all these little things, they are generally accepted, let's say. They're in the gray zone, so it depends on which one it is. Like for tower things, and can I go in about the unaccepted already, or do I wait a bit for it?
Wait, let's wait 1 second. I want to make just one point. Because what you said about the range mod, like the tower range, I now have the feeling that it might not be allowed in tournament games. Because I remember recently hearing Mumm cast a game where the enemy had fletching researched, and he was saying something like, but he's doing a smart thing by not showing his archers yet, or something like that, And then that made me think now at this moment of like, hey, if that's the case, if he said it like that, does it mean that maybe the tower range setting is not allowed in most tournaments? I'm not sure, actually.
Previously, it wasn't allowed, but how can you... Well, you can, of course, agree that you don't allow it, even if it's implemented in the main game.
You can, of course.
It's just an option in your game options. You no longer have to download anything, so that's the craziest thing about it.
Yeah, but tournaments control the game options, right?
Tournaments could also agree we are not going to play with Gujaras anymore, so you don't need to ban it. It's something they could do,
It happens? Global bans?
Yeah.
No, but I wanted to indicate that, to say, should we have something like a list of mods that are allowed for ranked games? You know what I mean? Like maybe lobby games, you can do what you want.
A code of conduct, let's say. Like generally listed up. If you're not so sure about something, check the list. I'm afraid it doesn't exist because it will always lead to heavy discussions and riled up people who say like, how can you say this is cheating? The game is literally unplayable without all my cubes.
You already talk about the cube mod.
Like things like this.
It's fine. You can describe it now if you want.
Yeah, sorry. I'm not going to go too in depth. Maybe we can do it later. But now in January, there's been an update with the just a general festive thing, like the Upside Down event, and all the mods were gone. And you needed to re-download the mods now, and so a lot of trouble getting your mods back in order. And you could see some people reacting like online, like the game is literally unplayable. How is this? And then I think like it's really okay if you feel like it's unplayable without the mods. Maybe you've gone a bit too deep into the mods. I feel okay. Small trees, that's one. It's really hard to adjust to the big trees. But if your opponent is also in the big trees, who cares? You know, if all the mods are gone for everybody. Well, no one should really care about it, right? It's the same disadvantage you have.
We all know that first game after an update where you forgot to reset your small trees, and it's that I would describe it as literally unplayable, though.
You would describe it like this? No, I always think like, oh, the worst thing about it is there's a new patch. You play without all your mods, so you're playing with big trees. You play the game, and at the start of the game, you think like, oh, I forgot my mods. Okay, and then the next game you queue. You forget it again. Do you have it as well? Like you forgot to change your mods, and then because you get used to it once you jump into the game and you get into the field anyway. It's just the first minutes.
So talking about making the game look differently, we already hinted at it. So I think the people that push it the furthest are the ones that are playing Minecraft in Age of Empires.
Yeah.
So there's a mod that changes every resource into a cube. So it basically color codes the game. Gold becomes yellowish cubes, trees, I think green. So basically you reduce the complexity of the visuals to very much the basic amount of information you need. Very much popularized by the Finnish players that were playing like that in tournament games. Luckily, I don't think it got too popular before new players would start watch a stream and be like, what are you playing? So what do you think of that in the aspect of not even necessarily cheating, but more pushing the visuals to the point where the game is unrecognizable?
Only functional, like only the functional information you need. Yeah, I'm not surprised that it didn't really explode, this mod, because it's horrendous. It's so ugly. It's like it really makes you feel like you're no longer playing a game, but you're doing just like a math equation or something, because it takes away all the immersement from the game. Just you know what it's just I can't understand how you would want to play with this. And sure, it might give you a benefit because it's very clear you could never mistake any resources. They're always very much visual, so of course, that will give you an advantage. But I feel like, okay, normally I would say this is like towards the cheating zone, but because you are playing such an ugly game, I'm going to let it pass. Because your own fun will be completely sucked out of the game, in my vision. So
maybe winning is the
fun. That's the fun, of course. But I think it's just so ugly.
Now all these mods, before they can be uploaded on the workshop, on the Steam workshop, they do need to pass a process. And actually, there have been mods that have been retracted afterwards. But I'm a bit confused because one of these mods. I saw some discussion about it, was the mangonel range indicator. Okay, so basically a mod that shows you like the towers, but the range of a mangonel. The weird thing is, when I looked into it, I actually found this mod still available.
Yeah,
I did a test game with it on against AI, and indeed you see a nice line of the mangonel.
It's like the thick line.
When it shoots, you see like it changing. Like the reload time, so it really it pops up the moment where it can reshoot, so it's easier to see that. Also, if a mangonel is hidden behind some houses, maybe difficult to spot, this huge circle makes it clear, like a mangonel. So what do you think of this mod?
Cheating, definitely.
Like
if you're if you're in doubt whether or not it's cheating, you could say like, oh, but I don't really know how far my mangonel ranges. okay, sure, but your opponent might also not notice, and it's especially when it shows you a mangonel hidden in the fog or behind a house. That's cheating without a doubt.
Mm-hmm.
And in these micro engagements, it's always like you target fire where you think their mangonel will be, and where you think you can fire and still run away. If you have this mod, it's no longer. It's just you can just plainly see it, and the other guy doesn't. So it's first of all, it takes away about the game of it. It's a bit of a guessing game always, the mangonel engagements.
Mm-hmm.
But this, purely cheating. I feel, I don't like it.
Yeah, I also agree. I thought it was banned, but somehow I can still find it on the workshop. So not sure about that. Wait, maybe we should give a disclaimer before. We do not approve of the use of these mods to our listeners, even though you might discover about them on this podcast. So the last thing I want to discuss was, you mentioned before, the cheat that you can do multiple times the same research.
Yeah.
That cheat actually started its life as a mod. It was a 9 times mod. You could do each tech 9 times. That was the first one. And it evolved into, as you mentioned, the 254 mod, whatever. 256, sorry. 256 mod that you could do text like crazy. So what happened is that the programmers, I guess, the developers, really liked this additional game, because it really changes the game completely, having this mod allowed. So they made it an official cheat. But I found a little excerpt of the creator of the mod that's asked when they were planning on doing this, that they shouldn't add this as a cheat code in the game. So 3 years ago, he already mentions that having this as a cheat code in the program, in the code, could lead to some problems.
Yeah, I get it.
So that's something he kind of warned them about, but they went ahead with it anyway. And that leads us into the final part of this topic, the dark zone. Sorry. So, Pen, do you have any idea what I mean when I say the dark zone?
Well, not just the mods that are questionable, but changing game code or adding programs to abuse game code, and modding the game in a far more deep way, I would say.
So,
am I correct?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So actively cheating the game by issuing commands and this kind of thing. Before we get into it, Pen, do you have any idea what kind of cheats can be done right now? Like, how far can people go with their cheats?
I have seen some games where I think I'm not sure if it's an official mod or if it's a cheat, but this is one of the things that I thought was, I've seen a few streamers with this, and I feel like it's so blatantly cheating. I don't understand how you could stream a game with this active and not be called out for it. So I'm gonna call it out here. I've noticed a lot of people, or a few streamers, not the big streamers, but like smaller streamers, they have a ring on their minimap, and they know that their enemy's town center will always spawn on this ring. It does like a calculation based on the map and your position, that it shows you where your opponent could spawn. That's something, but I'm not sure if it's a mod or if it's...
I didn't hear about this mod, so it could be something extra, but...
I could send you some videos about it. But to me, that's a terrible cheating. That's far worse than any of the mods we called out before, because it just... It always happens, right? If you're scouting and you're not paying attention, you run under there to see. And not just this, it's so much easier to find your opponent with this, and to lame and to it's, to me, that's hardcore cheating. But I might be a bit of a choir boy, because I know some people, they don't only see this, they actually see the entire map, and they have like the Marco Polo cheat codes on. And they just know everything that's going on. So, yeah.
Okay, indeed. Those are cheats I've heard of. but it goes actually deeper than that. Yes. So there's an interesting article. We'll discuss about it later, but I'm going to first start by showing you off some of the things that are possible. So please, can you check the first GIF, right? We will include these in the descriptions. No, it's
in the drive file. Yeah.
We can include them in the description. So please take a look at number 1, the first GIF. Okay, so please, for the people that are maybe on the road, can you describe what you're seeing?
I'm seeing plumed archers being targeted by mangonels and automatically dodging. What the hell? Does it exist?
Well, it does and it doesn't, okay?
What the hell?
So I will tell you a bit what's going on here. So this image, this GIF, comes from an article posted by Red Rocket, okay? So before, maybe disclaimer, we do not we do not support cheating in any way. And in this podcast, we don't want to point too much attention to it in a way. We hope that by pointing this out, the developers can make some changes, you know? And I think they're very, very urgent, okay? So what happened is the Red Rocket is a club of hackers, so-called ethical hackers, okay?
Yeah.
So they will hack your game and they will let you know before posting all the information online, 6 months, I think. They give you a 6-month warning to change, basically. And then they post what they found out, okay?
Okay.
So this team was kind of, I think it was during lockdown that they started, 2 years ago. They started exploring Age of Empires 2 Definitive Edition, okay? So what they found is that, okay, the game is based on the old 90s programming, okay?
Yeah.
So what happens is if you and me are playing against each other, each of our computers, our clients, are simulating the game, okay?
Yeah.
So you have your simulation, I have a simulation. If I say I'm moving my units somewhere, you know, then this command that I'm sending them somewhere is sent to a server, okay?
Yeah.
But your client, what you're using, is kind of validating that I send this command, okay?
Yeah.
So the server doesn't run everything. He's just checking if it makes sense.
Yeah.
This guy said move unit. This guy also said move unit. I agree. That's great. So that's fine. It moves the unit, you know? The thing is, sometimes, I don't know if you've had that, you have this desync state and your game crashes. If you've had something like that.
Yeah.
Where it's so that's basically when that client, so that server, disagrees. Like your computer says this, my client says that. I'm gonna desync the game.
So that means that either the server thinks I'm hacking, or does it just mean that that there's like too much of a delay in the syncing and then it drops?
It could be both. Could be a hacking, or it could be like a hiccup in the system. The server is kind of the referee, you know, but he doesn't actually run the game. We both run the game. And that is why the Marco Polo type cheats can happen, because my client is actually making the entire map, you know, from my side.
Yeah.
So my computer is actually looking at all the stuff that my opponent is doing as well.
On your computer, everything is running. It's not on a protected server or anything.
No.
So,
and it's not like I'm only running, like it's not like we're accessing a central thing that's like, showing it to us.
We're both playing a copy of the same game, which is synced through the server.
Yeah, exactly.
So if my base game has some technology added to it which you don't see, I can abuse it to...
Yeah. What you see in the first hack is that the guy tried sending in code, like messages basically, to this central server, okay? And he found out how movement works. So he wrote a little script that could know when a mangonel is firing, and it could automatically calculate how to move the best possible way each unit to avoid the shot. Okay?
Yeah.
But this thing that you see right now, that was only possible in a skirmish against the computer, because as soon as you would do this online, the game would desync, because you're sending all these commands of moving all these units, and the other computer is like, wait a minute, I didn't agree to that. Yeah.
This is not normal.
So that would desync the game. So this it's fun to look at, but it doesn't. Yeah.
It's moving all these units individually.
Yeah, the computer, huh? Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, because it seems like they are making an O formation,
Yeah.
which is something you cannot do in game. So probably, it's moving every unit individually. Also, I see like in the mangonel shots, you can see exactly where the mangonel shots are going to drop, which is something I've never seen before. I don't know if it's a mod or if it's also cheating or like just...
I think it's also calculating the shot of the mangonel. That's what you see.
You can see like little balls where each rock will drop.
Yeah, exactly.
Sick.
One last thing I failed to mention is when the central server is kind of checking, some of people call that a sanity check, making sure that everything is safe. Okay. If you don't have these kind of sanity checks, you could send invalid commands that change the game, how the game works, and that would be bad. So please, can you now open the second GIF?
All right. Okay. I'm seeing basic economy, someone gathering some deer, and then the other one is doing not too much.
Yeah, well, the player you're looking at is the blue player.
The blue player, the one who's not doing anything at all.
Yeah, so he is
just
using
moving
this
his
code
fills
online. And can you see what he's doing?
No, he's moving vills a bit.
Yes, he's moving the blue vills, his own vills. And then what's he's doing?
Yeah. He's moving his vill around with a few vills.
Yes, but he's
moving the red vills as well.
He's moving the red vills as well.
You can see his point of view. So he moves his vill a bit, like a few times. Then he starts moving red vills.
Yeah, so he's blue, eh? He starts the game by looking at the red, his opponent, in a real online game, and moving his vills. This is actual online.
And he's moving the red. So if he can move them, he can delete them as well, probably.
Well, can you open the third GIF?
Okay, I didn't know it was view log, so that's the thing. Okay, one eagle against all these champions.
You see what he's doing? Can you describe it?
He's very fast, but I'm not sure if it's a cheat. I don't think so. He's clicking. Wait, these champions have something. What?
Do you see?
He's deleting them now.
Yes, he's deleting his opponent's army.
He's deleting. It's an eagle being chased by champions, and the champions are being deleted.
Yes.
What the hell?
Yes. What they figured out is that the game only allows you to move your own units, right? But that's not necessarily like hard coded in the game, It's just something that the visual aspect, like the user interface, allows you to only move your own things. But if you circumvent the user interface by using code directly, you can actually move and manipulate your opponent's units.
Yeah.
So the fact that that's possible means that he concluded that there is no such thing as a sanity check. So basically, Age of Empires 2 Definitive Edition, based on this old 90s software, does not include many of the modern controls you would have. That would be like blue is controlling red units. Sanity check, that shouldn't be possible. I'm going to ban the guy. AO2 Definitive Edition does not have this. So that means that programmers, hackers, can influence the opponent's units. Okay. Well, what is the furthest you could push this? You can move your opponent's units. What would be something you could do?
Yeah, resign in their stead. Delete all their units, their buildings.
You couldn't resign.
You couldn't?
Of course.
Because that's interface.
Because that's yeah. But you could indeed delete their starting TC and their starting vills automatically. Yeah. And that is something that has been occurring. Please, can you look at this AO2 Insight profile? I'm sending it to you right now.
Calvin Hack at Microsoft.
Okay. That's his name. Go to the stats and look at his by match duration win rate.
Yeah. He has 100% win rate in less than 5 minutes. 28 matches, 28 wins.
Yes, exactly. So this was actually a bot running this program to basically auto-delete your opponent's base and instantly win the game.
It's just a bot.
So actually, I started getting interested in this topic when I saw someone post about, I don't know if it was this one, I think it was another one, and the bot was basically streaming on Twitch its whole process. And he was joining team games in the ranked ladder. He was, this one is just one example, but there have been others.
But it's over a year ago in which the bot did this.
Yes, there have been other bots that do similar things. And one of them even got up to the 2K ELO.
Yeah, using this. It will go pretty
using
fast,
this.
I assume, if you have an active bot that does this.
So the thing that I want to say is that these bots, these people that are doing this, they're actually trying to alert Microsoft. So they are doing it not because, I mean, these accounts eventually get hacked or not hacked, eventually get banned, but by doing it in such a public way, you could have actual high-level streamers, their games sabotaged by a hacker, and that makes a lot of noise, and that points out.
Yeah.
So the basic problem is that there's no sanity checks in the network code.
What I think is, if I understand it correctly, the reason for this is that your computer is running a simulation, my computer is running a simulation, and they're syncing through the server. If it would be, but that will be more a complete rehaul of the system. If there's a central system running everything, and we just get a copy of the simulation, like the simulation is being run on the central server, and we get a version of it. Like, I don't know, isn't that the way with like MMORPGs and most games run? Like a central computer running everything, and you get a simulation. But maybe this will be too expensive for them to.
But the thing is that the network architecture, so how it works, is based on the 90s old school. And if the game was simulated on a central server, you could add a lot of security, which is what happens in League of Legends type games, okay?
Mm-hmm.
The thing is that, okay, it's not doing that, which is by itself maybe a difficulty, but okay. It's more that the security relies on these sanity checks that each of the partners has to do. And they are not there. They haven't included them into the programming, into the code. Perhaps maybe it's for efficiency gains, maybe. I have no idea, because then you would have to do a check for each command that you send to the server. But it's a way to fix it. I don't know how much lag this could add or not. I'm not a programmer. But yeah, this is the way to go. It's just that it might not be, a big issue for the programmers to push this, to integrate this if they have other things to work on.
Yeah.
If there's not enough cheaters, you know what I mean?
Yeah, and that's also, I think, like, I'm not so sure. We don't know how long Microsoft will keep investing into Age of Empires 2. They've done this for the past years, and they invest into the tournaments, they invest into the game, they keep adding new stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But it's already happened once before that they dropped their interest, and it's a big company. It's always possible that at a certain point they say, well, we don't care about it anymore.
Mm-hmm.
If it's a system where you need continued sanity checks and continued checkups on the software for cheating that exists, at a certain point, all development will stop, I feel, like the official development. So I'm not so sure on the long term. I feel like this game, a lot of us who have been playing it for 20 years will never stop. So I have no doubt that the community will find a way to keep playing their beloved game. Or I hope so, at least. But I'm not so sure, if it's this deep into the base code of the game, whether or not it can be whether or not there's a solution in the long term.
Yes, but the thing is, so there's two things. For sure, what you said is true, that the game is not going to be infinitely developed, and hackers will always find a way to circumvent things. The thing is that in the hacking community, I've read that Age of Empires 2 is like the playground for children.
It's too easy.
It's so easy to manipulate that it's like, you're not even, there's no barrier to entry, let's say. And so adding some minor things like just sanity checks would already make it much more difficult for the beginner hacker, let's say, to have fun and ruin someone's games. And also the fact that most of the people playing this are somewhat older, it's not like we have a lot of time to play. So just the fact that if you play and someone hacks the game, it's kind of annoying if you only have limited time to play. Now,
It's always annoying. Yeah, I guess it adds to it, yeah.
yeah, but we have limited time. We're not playing all
Yeah.
Age of Empires the whole day.
Also, it's not always that blatant, because now you showed me some examples where someone is immediately deleting the DC, but if someone just has the vision, or someone deletes things or does things more towards the end game, if he feels like he's losing the game, and then the way we played maybe when we play cheats against an AI, you start playing normally, you start losing, you start cheating.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, if this happens, then somebody could lose a lot of time and energy into a fixed game, basically. That's annoying. And you could say like, oh, it will happen once in a while, just report. But yeah, it's not fun.
But that's exactly what I wanted to end with, is that those cheats that immediately end the game, okay, it's annoying. You have to wait again on the ranked ladder for a couple of minutes.
Mm-hmm.
But all in all, it's not ruined your 1 or 2 games of the day. But there's a YouTube channel called Poop Lord, and he made a video where he reviewed games sent by his communities where they think there has been some cheating, right? And indeed, it looks like, I mean, some things are stupid, but it's like, I saw someone getting TC dropped, and he had built a lumber camp quite in the middle of nowhere, quite hidden. And you see his opponent sends his vills like straight to the lumber camp,
Is it the marshmallow guy?
It could be, yeah, it could be. I don't know. These kind of cheats where indeed they know where everything is can be always denied. I was just lucky, I sent my vills the right way, whatever. But there's also other things, like I showed you can manipulate the enemy's vills. There's even been some indications that there might be some programs that idle your vills on Woodline, for example. And with DA, there's always been maybe some bumping issues, some vills doing
so you
nothing.
wouldn't even notice it.
Exactly, but it's really, and he makes a case that it looks fishy, like the number of vills idling and at certain moments in the game. I don't know. So yeah, those things really, really annoy me, and those are the guys that can go on undetected for a long time. For me, the underlying issue is just the architecture of the network. If you include sanity checks, these kind of guy will disappear. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
I don't think they will. Well, I don't think so. They will do all the effort it takes to then hack the game. But it's just too easy right now.
Yeah, probably.
So that's my opinion. I wouldn't punish. Well, we could also make a good reporting system. But I'm not sure that's actually.
I have been reported before.
What you have?
Yeah. And rightly
what is
so.
This episode? You've been cheating. You've been using questionable mods. Now you've been reported.
Yeah. I'm sure I've been reported because at one game, these games where you hate your allies? Do you know those kind of games?
I rarely have them, but maybe that's just because, I don't know.
I had one. So we are playing a Nomad game, and then my board is being taken. For me, it was a close board. For my ally, it's far away. I always prioritize some farther off boards. I don't usually take the one from my ally. I leave that to them. This guy didn't. He took my board from far away, which was, it's just handicapping, sabotaging me to get his advantage. I was like, okay. Then in Castle Age, I started by going knights. I delay my second TC. And like the natural spots of my base, he drops a mining camp on my gold. It's like, oh, and like a lot of these things. And then he starts criticizing me for something in the game. And I'm tilting so hard because I feel really sabotaged. I'm really walking far to find a good DC spot, everything. And I feel like this guy, he annoyed me so much. So at a certain point, I thought like, okay, it's clear we have lost this game. I'm really tilting by this guy because he was always nitpicking, not just me, but everybody, like telling everybody what to do constantly. And I was just, I tilted so hard. I made mangonels and started like target firing his buildings and walling in his resources and walling in it. And then he got really upset because he was already upset and calling like noob and giving commands and like being like, too much backseat gaming his teammates. And then he was really losing his shit. So, and I enjoyed it because it was a lobby game. So I don't know. Lobby games
And
are
what
meant to have
happened?
fun. I know that he reported me because at the end he was chatting to all, report this guy. He's target firing
But
me.
I would report him for being toxic.
Yeah, but toxicity is it really? I could mute him if I wanted.
You know, in League of Legends, they have this system where you can report people for just being that, like, toxic and exactly what you describe. I mean, it's not going to do anything, but if you get enough reports
someone
like
would
that,
look at it.
you can get temporarily banned and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
But I think Age of Empires has a more grown audience. I think I've learned to just, if my ally starts acting like that, I just type to my opponents, sorry, my ally is being like annoying.
That's also a good response.
Asterisks. GG, and I just concede, move on with my life because it's just not worth spending any minute with these kind of people in game.
I get it.
I don't care.
But I did have a lot of fun target firing him.
Well, if you had more fun than him. Then... No, okay, we're not condoning this behavior.
No, not at all. No.
And maybe next episode we'll have a different co-host when Penn gets finally trialed for all his decisions.
All my sins. Yeah.
Okay, so I think that concludes our talk of the show.
I might want to add something to it.
Oh, go for it.
Let's say if a professional player has used a cheat and it's clear that he cheated, what do you think the repercussion of it should be? That's what I wanted to ask.
I would just do like other games, you ban them for a certain time from joining any tournaments that are, hosted by, for example, Microsoft, or I don't know how it will work, but you cannot access this kind of tournaments for a year or 3 years or whatever. That's how it's often done. You just ban them from playing competitively at the highest level.
And only for a year?
Yeah, I mean, a year is a long time, huh?
I would say permanently ban, never play the game again in competitively.
Well, the thing is, like, I know mainly from Magic the Gathering.
Yeah?
Because there's also been cheaters in that game, like people literally hiding cards in their sleeves and stuff like that,
Yeah.
And they have the tendency, the first time someone cheats, you do get this 1 or 2 year ban, let's say.
Yeah.
But you get a chance of redemption. And the second thing is that people know that you cheated. So, I mean, okay, Age of Empires is a computer game, so most of the time you won't be seeing people face to face. But you do have this like thing attached to your name, which is quite, you're always seen as a cheater. You're going to be very much, all your actions are going to be like looked at with a lens, no, with a eyeglass. No, I say this, going to be closely monitored.
Yeah.
So for me, it's fine. If he repeats cheating, so you cheat again after you unbanned, then indeed, permanently banned. That's fine. But I would give them a second chance.
Yeah, because the prize pools are rising, The last years, Age of Empires they've been playing for bigger and bigger prize pools. So the incentive would be there.
Yeah, but you have to give back the money that you earned in the tournament you were cheating in.
Yeah, if you're caught.
Yeah, if you're caught.
Yeah. But because that's the thing. I think cheaters, the only discussion about what to do with them only starts when they're caught. So, and there will be an incentive to cheat when there's that much money on the line. If they can do it subtly, like from home, if it's not a LAN event and you can do it from home, and you have the vision on what the opponent is doing, and you're not deleting their vills or sabotaging them bigly, but just using that information. I think now we know what you can do with the game, and there's no way to check it. Doesn't that open like
the floodgates? Well, I think the thing is on the highest level.
Well, it's already open for the highest level. Yeah.
I think you get, if you're talking about the highest level,
I
think you're also going to get worse because you start relying on this kind of cheat. So then when the day comes, you're playing LAN on these secured computers, you're not going to have a great time. So I don't think, maybe that's a good reason to include LAN events.
Yeah.
Because then those players will be obviously not winning as much as they were before. And I think there are certain programs that you can run from distance to see if you're cheating at some point, but it's not so
Well,
easy in a way. Yeah. So
you could ask them
I don't
to
know.
share screen and to check their game files and their installed programs and their this is something you could do.
Yeah, but that's a lot of work if it's a smaller tournament. They're never going to do
Yeah,
that.
for a small tournament, that's something you can do. But it's just that I think now you know how easy it is to get these abuses in, and actually it's quite hard to get caught.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like, okay, for professional players, I'm not accusing anyone, and I don't think our professional players, they are like morally, I feel like they're very, very much in love with this game. They've been playing this game since before it was a big prize pool. But I do feel like if like knowing how easy it is and how much money could be involved, yeah, I'm a bit concerned that it might happen or it might be easy.
Even not talking about the money. If I lose a game in the ranked ladder and I see my opponent doing something strange, I'll be like, he's cheating.
Yeah,
it is in the back
that-
of your head, somewhat.
Yeah, but now I feel like
How did
a
he
lot
know
of
I
times
was
he
here?
won't be cheating.
Yeah, but it makes you
I feel like
feel
that's
better
just you.
about your loss.
Yeah, I have a nice meme. I will share it in the Discord about that feeling when your opponent is cheating.
Okay, so I think that concludes this
Yeah, I
segment.
think that concludes it. And also to the listeners, if you were triggered by this discussion, you feel like we said something that doesn't seem right, or you want to add to the discussion, join the Discord and join the discussion there. You are very welcome. We just discuss these topics now between us, but our end goal is, of course, to just get a discussion going in a bigger community, and you are very welcome to do that at our Discord.
Yes, I'm sure that we made zero mistakes talking about all the programming and the servers.
I'm actually worried that I will get permabanned now. Now that I said I used the tower range, and I've once target fired my ally when he was being toxic to me. So yeah.
Yes, this episode is not making it look good. So let's move on to the next segment before our listeners think too much about it.
Let's hit the civilization of the month.
Civilization of the month.
So uncivilized.
Welcome, listeners, to the third and last segment of our podcast, the civilization of the month. We've been talking about these cheaters and cheating. Well, cursed. Is there one civilization which could be associated with cheating, or at least feels like a cheat sometimes?
I mean, there's a lot of potential answers here.
Yes,
it's true. I don't want to answer it.
I don't mean a broken civilization, because you have like a few broken situations, but some things that feel like it breaks the game, or some people think that it breaks the game, it changes things up.
The Britons with their long cheating range.
Well, they've been established for a long time, so maybe if they came out now, people would say this, but it's a more recent civilization. I was alluding more, not to the Gujaras, because they just feel like very powerful in a different way, but the Burgundians I was alluding to, because a lot of people think like getting your tax in age early, half priced, when the food costs, that's already good. And then they have Burgundian vineyards, which gives their farmers producing gold. That's also good. But there is one game-breaking thing about this civilization, which is their Imperial Age unique tech.
Wait, that's not the one. I thought you were talking about the one that, that they can have Cavalier in Castle Age. Because I do remember the first time seeing that, thinking like, wait a minute, is this guy cheating? He has Cavalier or Castle Age?
Yeah, it's actually also, yeah. Actually, everything about this civilization feels like a cheat. There would be a cheat, like you can research upgrades an age earlier. You can tech into Cavalier an age earlier. You can make army out of all your villagers. Like, previously, like 20 years ago, that would feel like you just pressed a cheat code, you know? And this Civ has it all.
You're talking about the button, as they say.
The button, yes.
The cheat button.
First of all, I don't think like playing with Burgundians is cheating, but a lot of their unique mechanics are so different to what we're used to that they feel a bit like game breaking or like it would be a cheat. But I think the balance, well, we can get to that at the end.
Yeah.
Whether or not we think it's balanced.
Yeah, and for full disclosure, we consider ourselves part of the Burgundians, I guess. So we can call them cheating Civ if we are them, you know.
Yeah. Because we'll get to that. Well, we're Belgian people, both grown up in Flanders. I think we were both born in the city of Cursed.
Ghent.
Yes. And
I don't remember.
well, I will go about the history about the Burgundians a bit, and you will see how we will both feel like it's our personal history, or not our personal, but our
cultural history. Yeah, maybe.
Yeah. But for this civilization of the month, if you're not familiar with the concept yet, it's only the second time we're doing this. We will discuss the civilization, but more from a historic point of view, and then look at the tech tree in-game and see why the things that make the Civ unique, how they are linked into the history of the civilization itself, right?
Yeah, and that's from our point of view. We were not there during the meetings when it was actually decided. So this is our interpretation. Just
Yeah. So we look at their history, we look at the tech tree, and then we discuss it.
Mm-hmm. So tell me my history, please, Ben. I'm curious.
I've prepared a bit of the history for the Burgundians, but first of all, I want to say I'm not going to dive too deep into the history of the Burgundian civilization. I'm going to give you the intro to their Burgundian civilization, just the things that make them unique in the tech tree. But the main things about the Burgundian history are actually in the game, in the campaigns. So I'm going to try to not overlap too much with that.
Okay.
So if you are listening and you already know a lot about the Burgundian history, this will more be the introduction.
Okay.
First of all, the history of the Burgundian civilization actually sprouts from within the Frankish history, our previous civilization of the month.
Almost like we did it on purpose.
Almost, but
we didn't. I know we didn't.
We didn't. Yeah, we could pretend that we did,
yes.
But it's more random.
Editor note: cut this. We are professional.
But it's just a fact that oftentimes we think of civilization in Age of Empires as distinct cultures developing separately until they clash. And that is true for a lot of these civilizations, or they never clashed at all. But within medieval Europe, this is not the case. European cultures were more of a melting pot, and during the course of the Middle Ages, they all grew more and more alike towards the Renaissance. And each civilization we see in Age of Empires 2 represents a certain powerful or meaningful empire or powerhouse within the Middle Ages. And that's what the Burgundian civilization is as well. To look at their history, we start by thinking about the Frankish Empire, which was already established. Historically, the Burgundian state, I would say, is the 14th or the 15th century, somewhere like those 2 centuries. But at the beginning of the 14th century, before we can talk about the Burgundian state, there was a very proud moment in our Flemish history. Do you know what I am alluding to?
Are you talking about the Gulden Sporenslag?
Yes, the Battle of the Golden Spurs. Do you still know a bit about it?
Like from a long time ago, history classes?
Yeah.
My memories are something like Flemish peasants beating up the knights, the French knights, and also killing them in a horrible way instead of ransoming them. Is that something?
Mm-hmm.
Is that...
That's what we remember. Yeah. In our history, it's thought like because our region is still called Flanders, we defeated the French oppressor, and it's a big commotion about it. But if you look at history, it's not as romantic as we all think about it. It was also one of a victory within. If you look at the total amount of battles, okay, it's significant, but not. It's not like we won the war there. But let's. So I will go shortly about it because this actually is the unique tech, which is the most game breaking, the button. Let's say, and it actually refers to this battle, which happened before the Burgundian state was actually established. Later on, I will review why it's actually included in the Burgundian civilization, because it is linked to them, but it's not really the same period in time.
So they clicked the button before they developed their eco.
Actually, yeah, the button is clicked before the civ actually
was invented.
yeah, but still, if the button is linked to any civ, it would be linked to them, because there's no other culture that represents Flanders, only the Burgundians. So what happened is Flanders was a region, a county within the French kingdom, and by the 14th century it had become very wealthy. It had the most wealthy cities all the way in Europe. The only cities that could be compared to them were in northern Italy, so to the south of the Alps. And it had become so by two main things. First of all, it was like a lot of cities close to each other with rivers connecting them. There was a bit of an urbanization. There was also the cloth industry, which had become very, very professionalized, very, very good and revered.
Okay.
And that cloth industry was the most lucrative income of the entire region. And all the other things, the general trade flourished because of this. Now, to have a cloth industry, you need some raw materials, right?
Wool, I think.
And do you know which medieval region was known for the production of the wool?
I don't know why, but I want to say England.
Yes.
Is that true?
It's true.
Yeah?
So the wool that was needed to fuel this production of our booming Flemish industry came from England.
Okay.
But if we're talking about the 14th century, we're thinking about the 100-year war.
That's true.
And we, as Flanders, were part of the French kingdom, the Frankish kingdom. So, do you see the problem that arises at this point?
Yeah, but knowing our kind of mentality, this war wouldn't be a hurdle for trade, no? At least, not from our side, at least. Maybe the French would think differently.
Well, and that's exactly the case. Because Flanders, we have these wealthy cities that are booming up, that are urbanizing. And in fact, the Count of Flanders at the time decided he would side with the English, because it's logic for him as well. His income comes from his own county, and his county is too dependent on the English wool to jeopardize this by following the Frankish king.
There is a statue in Ghent of a guy pointing towards the English, they always say, pointing towards England. Could it be from this period? I don't remember.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
You mean Jacob van Artevelde? Let's say, I'm not going to talk too deep into Ghent medieval history, but throughout the entire Middle Ages, everything about the Flemish cities is, and especially Ghent, is what you call an insubordinate city towards all their political leaders.
Even then already.
Throughout the entire history.
Never changed.
And especially Ghent, the city we were born in.
Okay.
Also a new class is coming, like the bourgeoisie, the notables. They are not how do you say, aristocrats. They are not born in long names, but they have businesses, they have crafts, there are guilds, there are a new class coming with a lot of wealth, but no political power. And this causes a tension. The Count of Flanders decided, I'm going to side with the English. It's better for me and my county in the long term. But after that, what could be the worst thing that could happen to a nobleman deciding, I'm going to side with this faction? There's a war coming. I think this is the most opportune thing for me to do. And I'm going to abandon my king.
Going to see it in Age of Empires terms.
Yeah.
So I decided to ally with the Britons, leaving my old Frankish ally to the side. Thing is, though, my ally somehow is on an island, so he's going to need to build transport ships to get the Lombos to my base. So I'm very worried of a Frankish player raiding me with knights.
It's even worse.
Okay.
Let's say your ally has a proxy base with your previous ally who is now your enemy.
Okay.
But then they decide that they will ally to each other. They have a peace treaty.
Oof.
And for the Frankish king, you are a traitor So you actually stand alone because the one you fought was your ally is suddenly no longer fighting. Sorry to interrupt the podcast here. This is Ben with a quick editor note. While listening back to the conversation, it occurred to me that some confusion might arise as to the Battle of the Golden Spurs. This battle was fought in 1302, so over 30 years before the actual 100-year war starts. So all these events are to be seen as happening within the prelude to the 100-year war, within the same tensions, but not actually during the events. So with that clarification given, I'll send you back to the podcast. And this count kind of misjudged the situation. He thought it was okay to abandon the Frankish kingdom, because that's the situation. You have all these feudal lords, and they actually are like mini kings for the mini kingdoms.
Mm-hmm.
And he thinks, oh, this will be the most opportune thing. But then he misjudged the situation, and he was all alone to fight the entire Frankish kingdom. There were a few short battles, and he was quickly forced to surrender, losing all his lands and power.
How does this describe my average Diplo game so well?
Yes, true. But then there's something that happened that is not so much within the normal thinking of the games, and it's the button, which we just said, the revolution. What happened is that a Frankish king, he assigned these lands to a loyalist, a royalist of him, but there was still this new class, these new notables, this bourgeoisie that didn't have the political power. They had no say about who became their new count, but they had a lot of wealth. They feared for their own industries, their own existence. They wanted the political power. So Flanders revolted. Several cities declaring against the king, having their own armies against the count. And that's when we had the Battle of the Golden Spurs, which was a battle not by a political leader at all, but just by non-aristocratic people rising up to power, organizing militia to fight against their own kingdom at the time.
It's not kind of a war for their independence in a way? Like a war for their way of life? I don't know.
For their way of life, and more because it's basically they lean towards England in the entire geopolitical thing, more because of their own economy and how it's funded. Because of the way they developed, they've actually become more wealthy than Paris or other cities in the kingdom. It doesn't make sense for them to still be under the control of that king, but it's not really they didn't have their own leader which they wanted to install. It's more a thing about
leave us alone.
Yeah, this new class wanting to control their own lives and taking it into action.
So then the button is pushed. We managed to repress the Franks, the raids of the knights, and then what happens then?
Exactly what happens like in the game. So the French, they are historically known to be the worst strategists ever, because they have this idea about Charlemagne and Roland and those great heroes of old. So what they do is they want to repeat it. All the young aristocrats are trained for battle up in their armor, like the knights. They charge headfirst into every engagement instead of sending the footmen first, or like, you know what I mean? They're so hungry for glory that they don't even think about any strategy at all. So they charge in, and this is a battle like many others where the French just charge in with their elite soldiers into swamplands, militia with a specific weapon we call the good day in Dutch, which is just meant to stab a rider from below straight in the neck.
So
sort
nice.
of a fixed spear, like, yeah. And that's exactly the Flemish Revolution. So they lost that battle. There was no mercy given to the nobles because they had a lot of knights. You know, it was an entire culture.
Yeah.
Okay, we won that battle, but we lost the war, and the Count of Flanders stayed in its place.
Okay.
France got like a stain on their honor there. The cities were punished. Not much changed, but the tension was there. And it is in this environment that the Burgundian state will take place. Okay, that was a long intro to it all. I'm going to try and be a bit more speedy about it. But it already explains like the special tech. And it really refers to Flanders and this age and this intro to the Burgundian civilization. Now, the Duchy of Burgundy was a part of the Frankish kingdom. It had nothing to do with Flanders. It was an area in the Frankish kingdom that got its name from a Germanic tribe that settled there. They had their own kingdom. It became a part of France, an own duchy. During the 100 Years' War, there was the Battle of Poitiers. Another situation where the French idealized goals of chivalry, told them that they should charge the hill towards the English, and it went very, very bad for them. And the king sent back all his family except for his youngest son. At that time, he was only 14 years old, and he was called Philip. And Philip stood by his side, and although they lost the battle, this earned him the name of Philip the Bold. And as a further reward for because he was the youngest son, the fourth, like for him, those honors are what he can achieve in his life, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Normally, honor on the field of battle, it's not like he will get much political power, but he gets rewarded by his father. And when the Duke of Burgundy dies without an heir, he gifts the duchy to his son Philip. Also, that's a way to make sure that he still holds power, you know? His own son rules this duchy. The king has more power within the region, which is in turmoil, and also his son gets rewarded. So Philip the Bold becomes the new Duke of Burgundy. And that's when he proves to be very different to all the other French aristocrats with their ideals of heroism and chivalry. He shows that he has profound skill and attunement for good government and management. A few things he does is he deals with brigands, he governs his region well. And then, do you know the other unique technology of the Burgundian civilization?
Yes, the Burgundian vineyards.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah. Do you know what it does?
It gives a bit of gold while farming.
Yes. This is actually, in my opinion, a very good tech for them, because one of the first things Philip the Bold does with his new earned duchy is he looks at the most profitable thing there is in the duchy, and that's the wine they make. But what he does is he starts making laws for it, the wine laws they were called. And what it does is, at that time there were more like craftsmen or skilled workers giving like mouth-to-mouth education to their apprentices, you know.
Mm-hmm.
He made a written codex about how the wine should be produced. He said they could only use one sort of grape, and like everything to make the wine like the highest quality possible and to make the production of it efficient. And his wine became like an export product for his duchy.
That's how he started earning money with it.
Yeah, so actually managing his estate more like a businessman or a good businessman, while all the other aristocrats, they like it's beneath them, you know? They don't even think about managing money or things. They just ask taxes, and then like it's a different mindset completely. So he has more of a modern view of good government, and he utilizes this in a broad range. Okay, so now you have two separate things. We have the Duchy of Burgundy and why they have the wine laws and why that's the Burgundian vineyards. You have the unruly region, the county of Flanders, and why that leads to the Flemish Revolution. But what links them is another unique thing about these Burgundian dukes, and Philip the Bold is the first one of it, is they are constantly looking at the game board, let's say, and they're looking for ways to improve their own position and power. And what he does is he actually spent all of the money he still had to get a hand of the daughter of the Count of Flanders, because he had no other heirs. So actually he bought himself the most expensive wife he could buy him, but he actually bought himself the County of Flanders, which was the most wealthy county within Europe at the time, or at least north of the Alps.
So smart investment.
Yes, very smart. However, this county, as we've established before, is not the most secure county. They've just revolted against their king, against their previous ruler, and that's where he shows his diplomatic skill. The king dies, and a younger boy sits the throne. He becomes a regent, let's say, and he uses the French military to tame out all rebellions within Flanders.
Yeah, he keeps his hands clean.
Yeah, his hands are clean, and in the meantime, he secures his inheritance. He gets his children to learn the Middle Dutch language so they could communicate with the people of the area. Like, he does everything right to charm them. And when eventually the Count of Flanders dies, he has both of these areas.
Okay.
Now, the rest of their history, it gets bloodier because their empire will involve also the Netherlands, parts of modern-day Germany and Luxembourg. And like, if you look at it at a map, it's really massive, the Burgundian Empire. But that's more bloody, so therefore you can play the campaign. Okay, I've given enough history, I feel. I'm just going to give now the most important things to establish their uniqueness. So, the Burgundian civilization in Age of Empires, is there anything that you think defines them?
Eco attacks, that you can get them earlier, right? That's very defining.
Yes. Yeah, that's one of the things. Now, what the Burgundian dukes did was they had universities. They were one of the first rulers that actually had a lot of people on payroll, like a continuous payroll for painters, musicians, also writers. They invested into all the newest technologies and were among the first to have cannons and gunpowder, even before the fall of Constantinople, which was the first big victory with gunpowder. They were interested in all these things. He had one of Philip the Bold had one of the first watches, which was a massive solar.
It was a wristwatch. It weighed 5 kilo.
No. It was on a cart, and he took it with him. Like, all these things, like, it's revolutionary to think of. Like, if you look at the chivalrous knight charging headfirst into battle every time, and he was a completely different man. He was interested in everything modern, everything that could make things more efficient, and time managing is a way to make things more efficient.
Yeah. I'm imagining someone being like, "Hey, Philip, what time is it?" And he's like, "The cart will come," and you see this slow cart, and then it gets revealed, and there's a cloud. Wait a bit. It's like,
yeah, but it's insane. If you imagine that you don't have time before, they looked at the sun or the stars a bit. They actually measured time in like so many prayers of this, so many prayers of this, put an hourglass or let a candle burn. Those are really primitive ways, and he was one of the first lords that really wanted to know the time, and he thought it was so important he took it with him. I'm not going to dive too deep into it. Just they get their technologies age earlier. It just represents that these Burgundian dukes, with their wealthy duchy and county, and they really managed it to the best of their abilities, and they wanted to get all the new technologies, all the new intelligence. Yeah, they were eager for it.
Is that also the reason why they can get Cavalier earlier? Because before you were talking about the Flemish Revolution, so I don't see fancy knights.
Yeah,
you know?
I thought about it, why this could be the case. Their army was actually not necessarily a lot of knights and not many footfolk. He actually had professional soldiers, what they called coustiliers. That was something that the French had as well. But his army became more and more a professionalized army, not made out of purely noble knights, but more like, yeah, he had gunmen, he had coustiliers, So I thought an explanation could be that he moves away from the knight mindset earlier, more to professional military, but I just think it's a nod to the French.
Okay, and the Coustelier in the game, I know they have this special attack that charges.
Well, actually, if we look at it from a historical point of view, all knights should have a spear or something that has a charge attack. So they weren't very different from other heavy horsemen, but they're just the only one in the game that actually have this mechanic.
But I think it's because when they were making the original civs, I don't think they had the technology, to do this kind of thing. So it's something that is only now more possible.
And it's too big of an overhaul to change all heavy cavalry to get a charge attack. So they just gave it to the Coustilier.
And even now it's very controversial, no? This ability.
Yes.
So...
But their better gunpowder are things that are, like, all these things are very much in line with them. Also the fact that they have more of a professional military and not necessarily the knight class, although cavalier and paladin are also, like, it might be a different historical thing.
Okay,
no?
yeah. Now I understand better the reasons, actually. I can really see it. Because it was a bit mysterious before. their bonuses.
The entire way they manage their estates, that's, I think, represented very well in their eco sides. Then the Burgundian vineyards and the Flemish Revolution, I get why it's there. Apart from it, it's just a more professional army. Gunpowder is strong. It all makes sense to me.
And all of this was probably relatively short-lived, no? Did they move like further with this?
Yeah, it's already getting closer to the Renaissance at this. They start in the 14th century, and in the 15th century is more of the decline of the empire. What actually happened, I'm going to give you just a little bit about the empire. So he was the first duke, but his sons were all very much raised in the same mindset, and then the sons after that. So it's all ambitious dukes. And the further you go, the more they're diverting away from the Frankish crown and more looking at their options like a little finger in the Game of Thrones world. Like, there's actually Philip the Good. He tries to entice the French and the English as much as he can to be at war with each other, so he could benefit and play all sides.
Okay.
And they get so much wealth and power that they become at times more powerful than the Frankish king. But they're eventually, their empire. Well, we don't have a Burgundian kingdom, so that has a reason as well. But I would say play the campaigns to see because that's more of their bloody history, which I left out a bit. And for people that are really interested in them, I have a very good suggestion, which inspired me for this civilization of the month, or how to bring it. And that was the book, The Burgundians, from the Belgian author Bart van Loo. I can link it for any history fans. It's a very good book. It's in English as well. Oh. And if there's Dutch listeners, there's also a podcast, De Bourgondiërs, which is just the same, a full podcast dedicated to the Burgundian civilization.
Oh, so we have competition.
Well, it's not Age of Empires. It's just history, pure history.
I know, I'm joking. I'm joking. Oh, that's interesting. But you did teach me a lot about my own history. I only knew very vague details.
Well, our medieval history is not that, because we didn't have our own empire. We were part of the Burgundian, part of the French, we've been part of a lot of empires or region.
Austrians, Spanish, well, who else?
Actually, we were just a county. And it's also a fact, I think, like for medieval people, they didn't have like this national feeling. That's a very modern concept, your nationality and your like culture was very, especially in Europe, it's like the village next to you had a different culture, let's say, you know?
It was probably like looking up who is our current ruler? Right, those guys, I forgot.
And that's a bit of our history as well. Like those current rulers, the moment they ask too much taxes and we don't like them anymore, and it doesn't always go well for us, but that's a bit of Flemish history.
Okay, well, I think I understand how they were implemented in the game.
Yeah.
Thank you very much, Ben, for the fascinating deep dive into the Burgundians.
So, if you're still here, then you've made it till the end of our podcast.
Congratulations.
Yes. I hope you enjoyed yourselves. And again, any feedback is always welcome. You are welcome to join our Discord. Anything else, Kirst?
Yes, don't follow any of the cheating advice or the cheats we revealed. Play honorably, and then you can join our Discord and we can discuss other aspects of the game.
Be like a Frankish knight and not like a Burgundian cheater.
Exactly. Be as I say, not as I do, or something.
But we don't cheat. No.
No, of course not.
Next month, the notable news, we're already sure that we can give you an update on Kirst's road to 1500. And at that time, the T90 Titans League finals will have been played. And NAC just around the corner. March. And I think Nations Cup is also not for February, right? Or
20 February. So actually, end of the month it starts, yeah.
So probably it will have just started when we record our next episode. So...
But it's long. It's over 3 months.
Yeah. Okay. That will be a recurring thing. I think the focus next episode will be the finals of the 90 Titans League. And then we'll see what else pops up, right?
Exactly.
Yeah. Well, thank you for doing this with me again, Kirst. I really enjoy it.
Thank you, Ben, for your great memes you've been creating recently. I'm very impressed.
It's good to have an outlet for my Age of Empires addiction, as I said before. Yeah.
You have many, many outlets.
Yeah. All right. Then we'll see you the next time. Thank you for listening.
Indeed. Thanks for listening.